its latest spending package goes through. This has been leading to some interesting job listings from the agency. This one in particular creating some uproar online. It's for an IRS criminal investigation agent. Requirements include working a minimum of 50 hours per week, which may include irregular hours, and be on call 24/7, including holidays and weekends. It sounds like a news job, except
it does.
Sounds like our lives, but you may have to, quote, carry a firearm and be willing to use deadly force if necessary. Yeah, Congresswoman Claudia Tenney joined us last hour on this.
Wow. How many people do you know that may owe a couple $1,500, $2,000 to the IRS are dangerous and they need to weaponize 87,000 new officers? That makes the IRS the size of the U.S. Marine Corps, and now they're armed just like the U.S. Marine Corps.
And they're going to be going after small businesses. But that's another topic. Anyway, the proposed Inflation Reduction Act includes $80 billion for the IRS to expand audits and enforcement.
Yeah.
I wonder if the requirement involves wearing a headband and carrying a Rambo knife in your mouth while you swim in treacherous waters. I'm not sure.
It's just so, I know, when you think about IRS agents, and you know, the thing that I thought that was interesting about this is that you actually do have to be an IRS agent. You need to have an economic, like econ, finance background, and you also have to have a law enforcement background. So it's like a really super specific person to have this job. Also, Cheryl, Nancy Pelosi, she's been speaking out against China, has received a lot of bipartisan support for that. But now that we're learning that her son, Paul Pelosi Jr., apparently made a lot of money off of China.
We're learning a lot more about her son, in particular his travel schedule. Nancy Pelosi's son, Paul Pelosi Jr., who secretly accompanied his mother on her controversial trip to Taiwan, is the second largest investor in a $22 million Chinese telecom company. Now, these revelations eerily similar to Hunter Biden's overseas dealings as the son of a prominent Democrat. Pelosi serving on the board of Borg's Technologies. Marina Devine calling out the hypocrisy in this.
To hear that Paul Pelosi Jr. is similar to Hunter Biden on, having a lucrative board seat on a Chinese company, China is doing this because they want influence at the very top level of our government.
And to be fair, to be clear here again, her son went with her. She says, her office says in response, well, it was because her husband couldn't accompany her as her escort. But again, here we go with the son of a prominent Democrat using those that tie and that clout to make a little money serving on a board, which, by the way, is like the easiest thing in the world to serve on a board of a company. I'm sorry.
I just live for the day to serve on a board. That's when you know you've made it.
You've made some
or your parents have made it. Cheryl, thank you so much.
You bet.
All right, are you having trouble paying your bills? Well, how do you feel about President Biden and his scandal-plagued son Hunter living it up in a $20 million mansion for free?
That's right. The first family is enjoying a fancy vacation in Congresswoman Nancy Mace's state. She's here to tell us how she feels about that. But first, let's check in with Brian Kilmeade, see what's coming up on Fox and Friends. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Griff, you stay for free at the border on your free time. Let's be honest and transparent about that. And you seem to really enjoy it. No pool there or accommodations or overhead shots, but you do have a drone team.
All
right, let me tell you what's coming up over the next 3 hours, beginning in 10 minutes. We are awaiting the release of the DOJ documents related to the raid on Mar-a-Lago. As Attorney General Merrick Garland says he personally approved the warrant. It looks like the Trump team will not stand in the way, and they say release all the information. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik will be there. That's her picture. Plus, President Biden is bragging about zero inflation. So why are we passing the $700 billion Inflation Reduction Act? We're going to ask Congressman Chip Roy, tongue-in-cheek, General Jack Keane on the latest attacks over in the Ukraine, Geraldo Rivera on what's ever on his mind. Plus, Will Cain was sent to the Field of Dreams without a blazer, but he came back with a package, and he talks about the Cubs beating the Reds surrounded by corn. And finally, Joe Nichols takes the stage at the All-American Concert Series. We will find out once and for all, will tequila make your clothes fall off?
save the dates for the wedding, she's found dead on the floor of her own kitchen.
Teacher Death Mystery, a Nancy Grace investigation, streaming now on Fox Nation.
The Biden family is taking a lavish vacation in South Carolina and reportedly not spending a penny on their accommodations. The New York Post reporting, quote, the president recently asked prominent Democratic donor Maria Alwyn if he could stay at her 9-bedroom Kiowa Island estate. A source telling the Post that they stayed here before and they're not paying. They've never paid. They're just friends.
South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace joins us now. Congresswoman, your reaction.
Well, first, I want to welcome President Biden and his family to one of the most beautiful beaches in South Carolina in Kiowa. And if you haven't visited, I encourage everyone to come and visit our neck of the woods. We depend on tourism in the Low Country. But the other thing that I want to say about this is that I hope that President Biden learns something on his trip down, because when you travel down to Kiowa, you travel by and over some of the most rural and poorest areas of South Carolina. Families and workers that are really struggling through COVID-19, that can't pay their rent, can't afford gas or groceries, having trouble helping their kids get to school. We're really struggling there. But one of the other things, being a red state with a conservative governor, while he's on Kiowa, he's got clean air, clean beaches, clean water. And I hope he can learn from that trip as well to see that conservative leadership is great leadership. It's safe. We enjoy law and order, and we fund our police. It's a great opportunity to showcase all the beautiful benefits of living on the beaches of South Carolina.
Well, there's also the raid at Mar-a-Lago that just took place, and Hunter Biden is on this trip in South Carolina. His house never got raided, neither did Hillary Clinton's. Are these things just a coincidence, or is there, political motivation within the FBI?
Well, you saw after the raid in the first 24 to 48 hours that it spectacularly backfired, not just with conservatives, but with those on the other side of the aisle. You had classically liberal writers talking about how grave this precedent was being set. I'm glad to see Merrick Garland say something publicly yesterday, but I agree with the former president and the DOJ. We want to see those records unsealed so the American people have more information. This had never happened before, and you saw Merrick Garland doing damage control yesterday afternoon because this raid has spectacularly backfired. And you're right, Hillary Clinton's bathroom was never raided, and she had a server, personal server, private server with classified information on it. You had Sandy Berger, who was also part of the Clinton administration. His home was never raided, and he stole classified information from the National Archives down his pant leg and out of the building. But you see that the left doesn't hold their side accountable on any of these issues, and that's part of the reason people are so angry about what happened the other night.
Yeah.
Well, Congresswoman, people are going to be angry if they start getting more audits. I want to turn to this Inflation Reduction Act. It looks like the House could pass today, and in it, $80 billion to beef up the IRS, which could add a lot more IRS agents who will likely go after lower and middle income people more than millionaires.
Right, 87,000 agents. The 3rd Infantry Division is about 21,000 soldiers. So we're talking about 4 infantry divisions of IRS agents that are armed, that are spying on your Venmo, your bank account. They say they're not going to go after those making less than $400,000 a year. We've been told a lot by the Biden administration that just hasn't been true over the years. And people are really angry about this. If they were hiring them to get their refunds faster, I think we'd all be cheering for joy, because there's a huge backlog at the IRS. I get calls every single day about it, but instead they're going to be, going after hardworking Americans. And if you're a small business making $400,000 a year as an S Corp, for example, you're going to have less money to reinvest in your business and your employees or research and development, and it's just going to make inflation worse. Inflation's caused by spending. You can't solve it by just more spending.
Congresswoman, really quickly, are you hearing from any Democrats that might vote no on this Inflation Reduction Act?
Not so far, and I just flew in late last night for the vote today. I am deeply concerned about the deficit spending in this bill and what it's going to do over the next 5, 7, 10 years. I haven't heard a word. We'll see what happens on the Hill.
All right, thank you so much for joining us.
Nancy Mace, yes, thank you for being here. Great insight indeed. Carly, it's been great to be with you as well, with Todd on a much-deserved day off.
Yeah, it's great to see. We do this split screen thing. We got to see each other in person again, man. In the meantime, though, Fox and Friends is going to start right now.
think he's very cute.
Right.
But he's a married man. He has children. I've been listening to all these interviews about him. He is so humble. My gosh, he seems like a great guy. He's been on our show before. He has so many wonderful songs. He's been around for, I think, like 20 years in Nashville. He's good friends with Blake Shelton. They started together early days in Nashville.
It's weird. It goes up and down. Joe Nichols really hot, and then he was kind of down, and now he's getting really hot again. And the one line we're going to focus on is, does tequila, we're going to answer the question, does tequila make your clothes fall off? And the one thing they say is...
I'm hoping that's a song.
Yep.
Okay.
Them pantyhose ain't going to last too long if the JJ puts Bon Jovi on. So
that's her song.
Sudden how they're bringing in rock and roll into country. So there you go. We're going to continue to postulate that.
Anyway, he is our featured performer today in the All-American Summer Concert Series. You know, and this season, what we've got out on the square, we've got the Macklemores from Masterbuilt. They join us every week. And what do you got? And we always see you jumping. But what are you cooking? You're jumping and you're smoking.
Barbecue makes them jump.
Yes. So what we have for y'all, Brian, Ainsley, and Steve, is a little bit of naughty and a little bit of nice. The naughty side is we're going to be sending y'all in at 7 o'clock a campfire s'mordilla.
A s'mordilla?
Yes.
What?
You take a tortilla shell, your chocolate, your marshmallow, your graham cracker, and you griddle that off on the Masterbuilt grill.
Delicious.
Then we're going to bring you a glizzy. That is going to be a bite-sized little French toast bites on a stick. And then to bring it around to the nice, we've got you some smoked salmon.
And tuna.
And ahi tuna.
Delicious. A little healthy dish for us.
Fantastic.
Brian likes that.
I'm pro tuna.
So you're saying we'll get Brian to eat?
That's right.
Right. Yes.
Maybe in the break.
It's been 13 weeks coming.
Brian is going to eat before we get out of here.
He just eats off camera. He prefers not to chew with his mouth open.
Yes.
Right, because I can just
or talk
imagine.
with his mouth open with food in it.
We've got a couple of surprises today, too. I think we might have a little birthday surprise coming up. That's going to be, I think, sometime in the 8 o'clock hour. And then, Steve, we've got a gift for you because you were not here last week.
Oh, fantastic.
So we're going to be sending that into you so that we don't let Will take your gift from last week.
Well, it's always a pleasure, and it's a gift to have you as you cook for America. By the way, all the recipes are at masterbuilt.com. You can also check out their smokers and grills and the whole shebang as they jump up and down and smoke outside.
And Macklemore boys.
You know, and the great
father-son duo.
And they are absolutely sober.
we think.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
I've hung out with you too long. We're saying the same comments. All right, it's 6:03 here on the East Coast on this Friday. And overnight, former President Donald Trump calling for the immediate release of all the documents related to the FBI's raid on his Mar-a-Lago home.
Yes, he is encouraging that. The former president now firing back at Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, after he said he personally signed off on the search, which was something we had not heard from the AG.
Very interesting. Kevin Cork has the latest developments from Washington. Kevin, this changes every 15 minutes.
Yeah, it certainly does. What a big day in Washington, and I think there's more to this story. We'll all find out together fairly soon. Now, as you said, former President Trump says bring it on. He's urging the DOJ to go ahead and disclose all the documents related to the raid on his home over at Mar-a-Lago, and that's despite the fact that warrants, as you know, are not the same as affidavits. Warrants can be written in such a way that really doesn't offer a whole lot of clarity or context, which is why the former president is saying, let's release everything so we know exactly how you got to where you got to before you came and brought dozens of people over to my home over in Florida. But he also said this on social media, this on Truth Social, quote, not only will I not oppose the release of documents related to the un-American, unwarranted, and unnecessary raid, I'm going a step further by encouraging the immediate release of those documents. They say they have nuke docs. Let's see it. Meantime, in rare remarks yesterday, the AG, Merrick Garland, took responsibility for trampling on hundreds of years of tradition, all for what critics called a fishing expedition.
I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. The department does not take such a decision lightly. Where possible, it is standard practice to seek less intrusive means as an alternative to a search.
Garland insists no one's above the law. That's despite numerous examples of Democrats getting a pass for obvious violations, from Hunter Biden to Hillary Clinton to Eric Holder to Kevin Kleinsmith to Andy McCabe to James Clapper. The list goes on and on. Trump's lawyers are calling the AG's claims dubious.
They are not on solid ground, so they had to come up with something that would potentially terrify the American public into freely giving up their constitutional freedoms. You know, if we are on the verge of nuclear war, giving up the nuclear codes, maybe it's acceptable that they violated the president's constitutional rights.
Now, sources tell Fox News that the probable cause for the warrant likely came from a Secret Service agent who'd been serving on Trump's detail over there in Florida. An inside job, if you will, guys.
All right. Thanks so much, Kevin. You're all over it. Meanwhile, 6 minutes after the top of the hour, Jonathan Turley's been all over this, too. Fox's contributor, constitutional law attorney. So, Jonathan, as you look at what we know now, we did not know last night that the president was not going to block the warrant being released, even though they could have done it without him, perhaps. And he says, OK, let it all out, let it go, including the list of stuff you've taken. And now we get the play-by-play also of what really happened in June, the last time they met face-to-face. What do you take from what both sides have done to this point?
Well, what we're really looking for in this warrant is specificity. Last night, Sean Hannity said that his sources told him that the warrant contained basically two categories: material that should have been turned over under the Presidential Records Act, and then unspecified potential classified information. Now, you have to move those presidential records to the side, because the Presidential Records Act is not a criminal statute. Right. I can't imagine ever conducting a raid of this kind for that. But it's really that classified material that we're going to be looking most closely at. We had assumed that this warrant would be very specific as to documents that were of great national security concern and also at very high classification levels, but also that they knew those documents were there and could identify them. So we're going to look for that type of specificity. If it's not there, I think it's going to fuel concerns about why you had to do this. And when the Attorney General said, look, we look whether any other means is possible, and we didn't see that, it has left a lot of us rather confused. I mean, there is a thing called a subpoena. You used it before. Yeah. But also somebody decided to treat Mar-a-Lago like, but also someone decided to treat Mar-a-Lago like the Davidian compound. Why would you need 24 agents descending upon this residence?
They even went through, ransacked her closet, Donald Trump said, and left it a relative mess. The DOJ, if they do release this, they'll be releasing the warrant and a property receipt. Tell us what the property receipt is, and don't we get the majority of the information from the affidavits? Will those be released as well?
Yeah, that's the problem. When the Attorney General said that, many of us threw a flag on the play and said, wait, hold it. The warrant is basically the conclusion, so that basically the directions, here's the parameters of your search. It's the affidavit that would contain the answers to these concerns. What was the court told? Was the court informed that a subpoena had been complied with previously? Was the court told, according to the Trump team, that no communications have occurred since June? All of that is going to be in the affidavit. Now, that list of materials will be interesting. They may have found classified material. The government has every right to get that material back. The president does not have the authority to retain classified material after he left office. But this is a fairly common type of dispute between former presidents and the archives in returning material that are protected.
Sure. And, you were talking about things that were covered by the Presidential Records Act. And, we had heard through the week, maybe there was a menu from a state dinner or a napkin or something like that. In this case, and the part you're talking about that is scary, is both the Washington Post and the New York Times have sources in, it sounds like, the Department of Justice, speaking anonymously, talking about that apparently they're not just classified, they're not just top secret, but they're from the Special Access Program, which is the top of the top. These are the biggest secrets. And apparently they involve nuclear weapons. We don't know if they're ours. We don't know if they're theirs. But it is pretty terrifying to think that the secrets, the very biggest secrets for the country, were down in the basement of that resort. So the question is, Jonathan, If they can't find it, you know, there are only a certain number of these documents. If they can't find it, but they know they gave it to the president, they know that it was in his custody, then what happens?
Yeah, that's really what a lot of us are beginning to noodle on this morning. Those accounts are troubling. That would be really the apex of classified information. It's something that should never be held, if true, at a location like Mar-a-Lago. Right. Mar-a-Lago is not what's called a SCIF. It's not a secure facility right. for the discussion of material. It's also not particularly secure for the holding of material, even with the special lock. So that's what the list could potentially show us. If those documents are missing, then that is a serious breach. This is the type of material that just doesn't go missing and people say, shrug and say, well, somebody probably had it. Right. This is one of those sort of chain of custody documents that right. you trace every step of its progress.
So a couple of things real quick. It evidently, on June 8th, they met and everybody was cordial. President Trump walks in, says, hi, guys, I appreciate everything you do. And both, there were two separate sources that said he said that. This guy, Jay Brunt, said, do me a favor, he's counterterrorism official. Could you put another lock on that door? Because we're going to come back again and we'll discuss this. And they said, sure. And they did it. On June 22nd, they get word about more documents and maybe major developments. They got to go back. But they don't communicate to the Trump team again. The next time they deal with the Trump team, nobody's there. Everybody's in New Jersey or New York City. And they go into the compound and on Monday night. And they go for 9 hours. So whoever gave that great tip on exactly where that information wasn't such a great tip, unless they liked Mar-a-Lago so much they wanted to lounge by the pool a little bit longer. So something's going on here. And I'll tell you, in talking to the Trump team, I've seen them in tense situations. They think that the administration is way over its skis. They have no idea what they were getting into. And they actually thought they could do this and not cause a big stir because they didn't wear windbreakers.
Well, the problem is that I get more confused with the more information they give us. If this was apex material, if this was the top national security material dealing with nuclear weapons, then they certainly took a rather lackadaisical approach to getting it back. You know, they got the warrant, waited days to execute it. They really didn't take any steps since June. All of that seems just inherently inconsistent, which is why we need to see that affidavit. You know, both the Department of Justice and the Trump people have said they want full disclosure. Right. Well, let's have at it, because somebody is not telling the truth here.
Real quick exit question. We don't know what they were able to find in the search. If the stuff is there, does the federal government just go, okay, we got it, thank you very much, that's what we really wanted? Or is there a punishment for having it down there? Does it all just end?
Well, the Presidential Records Act itself is not a criminal statute, but there is a statute that can be used. It actually comes with 3 years potential imprisonment, but that is a specific intent crime. You have to show an intentional concealment, which perhaps they will allege. But it is very uncommon to see prosecution under these types of circumstances, and when they've occurred in cases like Sandy Berger, there has not been really significant punishment. In his case, you had the most serious possible type of breach, and it resulted in a misdemeanor plea, no jail time.
And where's the 30 million documents with Obama in it? Exactly. Obama has 30 million documents.
Imagine if they had raided Michelle's closet and gone through her personal items, what the media would do then.
Oh, my goodness.
Hillary Clinton got away. Didn't they take a lot of furniture? And then she was caught with the classified information that our other countries were able to hack into. Nothing, no raid on them. Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thank you.
All right. Meanwhile, other news on this Friday, actress Anne Heche sadly is not expected to survive following that fiery car wreck in Los Angeles.
You got new blood tests they're also revealing it wasn't alcohol that was in her system the day she crashed into a home, and you're seeing the video.
Carly Shimkus joins us now with more. Carly?
Yeah, that's right, guys. Actress Anne Heche remains on life support after crashing her Mini Cooper into a Los Angeles home last week, igniting a fire. A representative for the actress tells Fox that Heche is suffering a severe brain injury and is being kept on life support to determine if any of her organs can be donated. Law enforcement sources telling TMZ that Heche was under the influence of cocaine at the time of the high-speed crash, not alcohol, in contrast to earlier reporting. Heche crashed her car into the garage of an apartment complex in Los Angeles and then again into a nearby home. Officials say she suffered major injuries and severe burns. The LAPD was reportedly investigating Heche for a felony DUI after a woman inside the home claimed she was also injured. Heche's representative says she wants to remember the actress for her, quote, huge heart, and she touched everyone she met with her generous spirit. She will be remembered for her courageous honesty and dearly missed for her light. Fellow actors and loved ones have also been sharing condolences and fond memories with the actress, who is just 53 years old. What a tragedy, guys.
Just awful.
Yeah, it really is.
Thank
She's
you
a
very much,
beautiful
Carly.
lady. My gosh.
She is.
Sad
What an
to know
Terrible.
that this could be the end at such an early age. All right, coming up, more than 10,000 acres are burning in a raging Hawaii brush fire. The wild video of the Big Island blaze.
Plus, bad news for President Biden. Three-quarters of Americans say things are not going well, exclamation point. And where is the president? Taking a luxury vacation with his scandal-plagued son for free. What Americans are thinking about that will be coming your way.
Sale. Save 50% on the Sleep Number 360 limited edition smart bed. Ends Monday.
What are you gonna do?
Here! Grab onto me! We can double up!
No, don't worry about it. I'm good. I don't want to detract from your experience.
It's okay to get help. Find a licensed therapist at BetterHelp.com.
Attention Marines and family members who spent time at Camp Lejeune.
If you spent time on base at Camp Lejeune prior to 1988 and developed any of these cancers or suffered any of these injuries, you may be eligible for significant financial compensation. Call Camp Lejeune victims to discuss your case now.
Leaking underground tanks contaminated the drinking water with benzene and other highly carcinogenic chemicals, up to 280 times acceptable levels in some instances.
There have been numerous reported cases of exposed personnel developing cancer and other serious health conditions. It is critical to take action and call Camp Lejeune victims now.
If you or someone you know spent time at Camp Lejeune before 1988 and you developed any of these cancers or injuries, call to determine your eligibility for financial compensation now. If you don't win, you pay nothing.
Call 800-685-6544. That's 800-685-6544.
Vacation as you look at Folly Beach in South Carolina, and Ainsley Earhart, who grew up in that neck of the woods, knows that Folly Beach is the island just slightly north of Kiowa Island, which is where our current president is on vacation with his family, including Hunter Biden and his family. The Bidens are staying for free at a $20 million South Carolina mansion on Kiowa Island. It has 9 bedrooms. It is owned by Maria Alwyn. She is the widow of a hedge fund. There's the house right there. Look how pretty that is. $20 million, 9 bedrooms. It is owned by the widow of a hedge fund founder. The Bidens have stayed there before. According to the New York Post, they have never paid. They're just friends, so they're going to stay there, and it sounds like they're going to be staying there through at least Tuesday night, because the limited VIP restrictions for air access by the FAA expire at 9:15 on Tuesday night.
I can guarantee so many South Carolinians are like, why are they here? We don't want people to know about Kiowa Island. We don't want people to know about our beaches.
It's so pretty there.
It is so beautiful there.
Look at that. It was top secret to me. Until now.
They're saying traffic's getting so bad because all these Northerners are moving down there. They're like, stop talking about it on air, Ainsley.
That's how people feel when we keep showing Fire Island. People want to keep it secret, but we keep showing it. So we'll find out. No more Kiowa if you just lay off Fire Island. Is that all right?
Okay. Deal.
All right, a couple of things. The President of the United States is thinking about a victory tour. Think about it. He's got the CHIP Acts ready to roll. He got bipartisan legislation when it comes to guns. He got bipartisan legislation when it comes to infrastructure. And now he's about to pass on a pure party line vote the Inflation Reduction Act, which has nothing to do with inflation. But he feels as though his people are going to, after he's done vacationing and test, and if he can stay negative on COVID, he's going to go around the country and say, look how great I am.
Well, inflation didn't change month over month, right? At 0%. But we still have inflation because gas prices went down, but food cost went up, rent cost went up, so they balance each other out. So there was no change in the inflation rate. But they are trying to make you believe 0% inflation. They actually mentioned that here. Listen.
It's been a very good week for President Biden and the Democrats, but it's also been a good week for American families. I mean, we are on the cusp of passing the Inflation Reduction Act and having it come to the president's desk, a month where we had 0% inflation this month. This month, 500,000 jobs. So we're seeing jobs up, costs coming down. So President Biden's economic agenda is working.
This is what this president has been focused on. This is why he ran, to make sure that we build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out and don't leave anyone behind.
Well, anyone who hears that would think that sounds great. We're finally turning the corner. But if you've been to the grocery store lately, you know the prices are going up, and the prices continue to go up.
No, it's zero inflation.
No. 85.
It's not really happening.
Ainsley, I'm going to actually give the folks the fact. I'm not going to do the White House spin. 85% of Americans, according to a brand new poll, say grocery prices are still going to go up. Hard telling how much that stake right there is going to be in a week or two. But here's the thing. Year over year, the inflation rate is 8.5%. But month to month, it's just zero. So what are they doing? You know, that I used the expression yesterday. They're lies, damn lies, and statistics. They found in the statistics one good fact that they could hang their hat on, and so that's why they're going to go out. So while a lot of the Republicans are talking about Donald Trump and the raid and the search and all that stuff, the Democrats are going to focus on November because, you know, we'd heard in the past that it sounded like the Republicans were going to take the House. It seems like things are tightening up, and now they're just trying to say, hey, happy days are here again, even though you don't feel that way.
They can say whatever they want, but Americans, if you look at all the polls that we've been citing lately, Americans are not happy with the direction of this country. In fact, this is a Fox News poll. How do you feel that things are going in the U.S.? 24% are satisfied. That means 75% are dissatisfied.
Yeah. All right, guys, on the economy, 19% say excellent. 19%? Are you kidding?
Those people don't have cars.
Right. The most important issue for every American has always been inflation, 41%. It remains that way. Abortion, second. That kind of moved up. Border security, I can't believe it's just 7. Climate change, also 7. It was at 5 in June. Guns at 7% now. Of course, June had the shooting, Uvalde and Buffalo, and voting rights 6%, and 4% was in June. A couple of things. What's about to be jammed down our throats today is $6.5 billion on a tax on emergency companies, $1.2 billion levy on imported oil. That includes $124 million. Stock buybacks are going to be banned now, which is going to affect the 401k. $200 billion for the IRS. For the IRS, it's going to ruin, basically go out of their way to ruin everybody's lives. So many people on the energy side, on the fossil fuel side, have said, hey, Joe Manchin got a lot here. He's going to allow to streamline the permitting process. He's going to allow his pipeline to be redone. Well, it turns out the parliamentarian said, yeah, that has nothing to do with finances. So we're going to put that on the side. Excuse me? You're going to put that on the side. So the thing that Joe Manchin got as an acquiescence to sign off on all this green legislation, it's not even in the bill. And the Republicans goes, I don't even believe it's going to work, because now the Democrats are going to tie that to something else. So what Joe Manchin seems to have gotten the rug pulled out from under him. And I have a great analogy, which critics are calling brilliant.
Okay, let's hear it. It better be brilliant, just saying.
So when you talked about inflation, you said, hey, you know, inflation's still high, but he goes, but it's zero. Technically zero. So to me, it's like giving up 11 runs in the first inning. You're losing 11-0. You go to the next 4 innings, you give up no runs. And the other team goes, look, I've given up no runs over the last 4 innings, but you're still losing 11-0
That's it?
That was good. That was good.
It?
All right.
That's why
we'll go with that one.
It could be. It could eventually tie into the field of dreams.
Okay.
So you're still losing by the same score just because you haven't given up any runs later. That, to me, is the emphasis.
Yeah.
That's why critics are calling it brilliant.
Well, which critics?
They're there.
Okay.
Well, so Brian, it's Ainsley and I who do the sports on this show. So next time you make that analogy,
stay in your lane.
Yeah, please ask for permission first. Just we'll give it to you, but you have to ask first.
But can
you know
I
what
have
I've
permission to
learned?
use this sports
You know what I've
analogy?
learned? If you need to prove your point to your husband, your significant one, do a sports analogy, and then they're like, oh, okay.
And today, though, Will Kane is the sports guy because he's at the Field of Dreams. We're going to see him in a little bit, so he's got the baseball.
We'll tackle him later.
And I heard that the ratings were amazing. So
it was a great show.
A lot of people watched and had a great time doing it. Should I get to some headlines now?
Why not?
Sure. All right, let's do it. Starting with this, a very important one at that. Political leaders pay their respects to Indiana Congresswoman Jackie Walorski during her funeral in Granger on Thursday. Her Washington colleagues honoring her for her tireless dedication to her work. Republican House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy saying, quote, tell you the truth, Jackie never had a job. She always had a purpose and a mission. Walorski was killed alongside 2 members of her staff when their car collided head-on with another vehicle. Congresswoman Jackie Walorski was 58 years old. And now to a Fox Weather wildfire alert. A fast-moving brush fire charring more than 10,000 acres on the Big Island of Hawaii. The blaze started at an Army training area. Members of the military are working to help firefighters douse the flames that's hopped a major highway. Wow. And sincere congratulations are in order for Fox's own Shannon Broome, who has just been named anchor of Fox News Sunday. Shannon will be the first woman to anchor the show full-time in the program's 26-year history, and she's pulling double duty and will remain in her position as Fox chief legal correspondent. Shannon takes on the role starting on Sunday, September 11th. And no one deserves that job.
That's
more than her.
On 9/11, she's beginning. She is such a nice person, a class act, and so brilliant.
Smart, so beautiful.
Yes, knows the Supreme Court like the back of her hand.
Yes.
Has covered that for years.
Exactly.
Beautiful in every way. Congratulations, Shannon.
Absolutely. We
I
know
bet she's not watching. Show last night. It's pretty late.
Maybe somebody can tell her about this moment.
Yes, we'll all text her right after the show.
Yes.
She's going to be on my radio show a little bit later, and I wonder if she's going to have a band and comedians. I wonder if she's going to make it more of a variety show.
It runs
you'll
at
have to
9 o'clock in
ask
the morning.
Oh.
Why would you do that?
I'm just saying it's an idea. She might want to take it.
All right.
All right. Anyway, congratulations, Shannon. In other news, still ahead, an armed man with a nail gun and an actual gun tried to breach the FBI field office, is now now dead. Sorry that I am not doing a good job on this. The FBI field office is where he tried to enter the building. He is now dead following a 6-hour standoff with police. A live report straight ahead.
Plus, keep moving. The message from a Georgia sheriff who claims Texas buses filled with illegal migrants bound for D.C. tried to unload in his town. Why he says small towns like his can't support them.
No joke. All right, Fox News Alert now. Ohio investigators are reporting the armed suspect who tried to storm the FBI field office and led authorities on a chase was motivated by the raid on former President Trump's Florida home. The 6-hour standoff ending in a hail of bullets. Griff Jenkins has been following it in Washington with the details. Griff.
Yeah, hey, Brian, good morning. A terrifying situation at that FBI office in Cincinnati. The armed suspect, identified as Ricky Schiffer Jr., attempted to enter that field office before leading police on a chase some 60 miles northwest. Now, Schiffer was shot and killed in an exchange of gunfire. Listen here. And Brian, we learned more details about the kind of weapons Schiffer had from that dispatcher call. Listen.
He's trying to break into the FBI building in Cincinnati.
Can we get some other units starting this way too then?
96 is behind it. There's about 6 or 7 trying to catch up. Northbound from the 32.
54711 and FBI did confirm that he had a nail gun as well as an AR-15.
We're maintaining right lane and 70 miles per hour. He has not made any movements.
Afterwards, Ohio State Police Lieutenant Nathan Dennis recapped what went down when they encountered Schiffer.
The officers attempted to negotiate with the suspect. Over time, they eventually failed and were unsuccessful. So at that time, officers tried to move in using less lethal tactics to take the suspect into custody. The suspect then raised the firearm toward law enforcement, and that's when shots were fired at the suspect.
Officials say Schiffer may have been motivated by the recent raid at Mar-a-Lago. He took to his now deleted Truth Social page, calling on his followers to use, quote, force and attack federal agents responsible. This after FBI Director Chris Wray wrote to his employees about threats to the agency, saying, as always, the way we maintain the trust and confidence of the American people isn't by joining in the public commentary. We do it through our work, by showing when all the facts come out. We stuck to the process. We don't cut corners. We don't play favorites. Our focus must remain, as always, on our mission and on doing the right thing in the right way, no matter how loud the noise gets. And finally, Brian, Fox has reached out to that field office in Cincinnati to get more information from the FBI. We'll bring it to you if and when we get it. Brian?
All right, Griff, pretty perilous stuff. Thanks so much. Steve?
Thank you, Brian. Don't stop here. Keep moving. That's the message one Georgia sheriff gave to a busload of migrants bound for D.C. The sheriff says he heard tour buses from Texas were stopping to drop migrants at a local gas station, drop them off there. So he personally went to convince them to stay on the bus and go to D.C. Sergeant Chad Payne is with that Dade County, Georgia Sheriff's Department. He joins us right now. Sergeant, good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve.
Okay, so this took place a couple of days ago. You hear a report that along the highway, half the migrants on the bus are trying to get off. Pick up the story from there.
Yeah, we'd actually been receiving information for several weeks now that buses were dropping off at the truck stop in Rising Pond, and we got a call from the store that day, and they said, hey, they're down here right now doing it. So the sheriff, he loaded up. It's about, from the sheriff's department, about probably a 10, 11, 12-mile ride down there. He got there almost about the time that the bus was trying to pull off the lot. And he noticed several what appeared to be migrants standing in the parking lot.
You know, Sergeant, these bus rides are now famous because they would go from Texas up to the District of Columbia or to New York City. We hadn't heard about any stops in the middle. Do we have any idea whose idea it was? Hey, look, we're in Georgia. Who wants to get off?
Well, based off the conversation the sheriff had with the bus driver was, in the sheriff's opinion, encouraging them to get off by telling them that they were close enough to Chattanooga to walk from there, which was absolutely not the truth. He was at least 20 miles. It would have been a very long walk, a 20-mile walk to Chattanooga from where they were at, and they just dropped them off in essentially the middle of the country. You know, there's nothing down there except the truck stop and farmhouses and farmland. So leaving them there would have essentially been establishing a homeless camp.
Yeah, no kidding. I understand the sheriff showed up, looked for a translator, and convinced everybody to continue on to D.C. But is the sheriff's office going to now contact the state of Texas and say, hey, listen, if you're driving people to D.C., don't stop here?
Yeah, you know, the sheriff has called. He's called our state legislators. We've had our legislators, excuse me, and we've had them involved in this. We've the sheriff has spoken to the governor. The governor said he was making a phone call to the owner of the bus line to ask him not to stop here. You know, it's not essentially humane to drop somebody off in the middle of nowhere and just expect them to fend for themselves. You know, and we're not so sure, Steve, that these are the buses. They said they were going to D.C., but we also noticed that yesterday they had some paperwork that specified that they were to be dropped off in Chattanooga. And also they had the cell phones.
A lot of unanswered questions.
That the government's supposed to be giving them. Right.
We did not know about this story. Thank you very much for bringing it to us, to our attention. Sergeant Chad Payne, Dade County Sheriff's Department down in Georgia. Sir, thank you very much for your service and dropping by today.
All right. Thank y'all.
You bet. Have a good weekend. All right, coming up on this Friday, last night was a night to remember at the Field of Dreams in Iowa. Will Cain was on site, and look at that. He's up with the Roosters. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve. Welcome back to the Field of Dreams. As the Cubs and the Reds were taken to the cornfields, I took to the stands. I talked to a few actors, a few baseball legends, a lot of fans who were having a catch. Have a cup of coffee. Hang out here on Fox and Friends. I'll take you to Iowa.
The 1989 classic movie Field of Dreams came to life again last night in Iowa.
All right, this time fans cheered on the Chicago Cubs in a win over the Cincinnati Reds on Fox.
Fox and Friends Weekend co-host Will Cain was there. Let's take a look.
I'm watching you sitting out here playing catch with your son. What does that mean?
Oh, it's everything. It's a story of fathers and sons and baseball, and that's a very important part of our lives.
The chance to pass the game down from my dad to him. He just recently watched it.
Did you like the movie?
Yeah. They came out of, like, the corn.
People will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
Have they been reciting lines from the movie throughout the day?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Memory is so thick you could brush it from your face.
How many times have you seen it?
A lot.
And what's your movie review?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10, it holds up.
If you have two sons like I do, you got to be a fan, right?
Mark was in the original 1989 Field of Dreams, one of the Chicago Black Sox that walked out of the corn.
You know, we had no idea it was going to be this big a deal. You guys are guests in my corn.
Is this heaven?
And what does Kevin Costner say in response?
No, this is Washington.
No, Iowa. One of the things you learn about working on Fox and Friends is don't worry about what you look like while you're eating.
Both of my boys have played games over on the movie set.
We were on vacation, and this was our main goal, to see this game.
He serves one up the middle for a base hit. Third in a row for the Cubs with 2 gone.
Hey, Rosie, you got another fan that wants another signature.
The team, the baseball, it's bringing baseball back.
That's Harry Carey as a hologram.
Aw. Hey, Will.
It was Harry Carey. It was a hologram. One of the many star appearances yesterday here in Iowa, I ran into Timothy Busfield, who was an actor in the 1989 Field of Dreams movie. Of course, Ken Griffey Jr. and his father, Ken Griffey, had a catch right there at the start of the game. I got to talk to them for a moment after that. Special moment for stars, but not just for stars. As you walk around here, Ainsley, Brian, Steve, what's really, really special is to see all the fathers and sons and some fathers and daughters having a catch, spending some time together. Last year when I was with you, it was all about the movie coming to life. It really resonated for me this year to see the theme come to life, the theme of fathers and sons, of parents and children. And I got to have a special moment, which we'll play with you a little bit later, with the legend John Smoltz, about a moment yesterday with his father. I hope you'll stick around and listen to that a little bit later here on Fox and Friends.
Do you know what Brian learned from that piece? You can eat and do TV at the same time.
Very nicely done.
Yeah, that was great.
He's been doing the show 25 years.
Won't do it.
He's been doing the show 25 years, and I've eaten more in 2.
That's right. He always flosses. He is Will Cain.
Because he's eating corn.
You gotta, with corn.
Right.
From the corn state.
That's great. You were really in there with the audience, with the fans. That was cool.
Great job, Will.
Yes.
We'll check in with you again.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. All right, straight ahead on this Friday, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is going to join us coming up. Plus, freshman disorientation. A new study shows most public universities are skipping free speech in freshman materials. How that could impact your college kid.
You're not free to speak.
Coming up on Fox and Friends.
we weren't able to look at.
Well, it really just sets the groundwork. If they're learning this their freshman year in orientation, yes, for the next 4 years, what will that look like? What was the most surprising thing you found?
So we found some really, really terrible examples. I mean, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas actually uses the phrase white people in their definition of racism. And the SUNY New Paltz and UC Irvine have students take a bias assessment exam or a survey that actually has them match skin colors to positive and negative words and to weapons. This is something that afterwards it will tell you whether or not you're implicitly biased against a certain race. If you don't click fast enough, it tracks your clicking speed. So it's things like this that students are they're really concerned. It's planting seeds of insecurity where there were none before. They're looking around and wondering if all their classmates are racist or bigoted now, and they're willing to report each other on it.
And they're scared to talk in class for retaliation. What schools did you find were the biggest advocates for free speech?
So there were some schools that had some laudable examples, such as George Mason University and Louisiana State. These schools had students mandatorily read a handout that talked about the university's dedication to free speech and the First Amendment and why it's so important to the university experience. And this is something we encourage all universities to do, and let students know that, this is something that it's important. Debate and open discourse, very important. So we launched a tip line also so that students can let us know what's going on their campuses. This is something that we think is super important. We want to know what else is going on. And so the tip line is something we encourage them to reach out to us on.
Okay. She is the executive director of Speech First. If you want more information, you can find that online. Sharice Trump, thank you. Still ahead, country star Joe Nichols will rock the All-American Summer Concert Series. It is Friday.
And our nation's 204.
No once-daily COPD medicine has the power to treat COPD in as many ways as Trelegy. With 3 medicines in 1 inhaler, Trelegy helps people breathe easier and improves lung function. It also helps prevent future flare-ups. Trelegy won't replace a rescue inhaler for sudden breathing problems. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before taking it. Do not take Trelegy more than prescribed. Trelegy may increase your risk of thrush, pneumonia, and osteoporosis. Call your doctor if worsened breathing, chest pain, mouth or tongue swelling, problems urinating, vision changes, or eye pain occur. Take a stand and start a new day with Trelegy. Ask your doctor about once daily Trelegy and save at Trelegy.com.
This isn't just freight. These aren't just shipments. They're promises. Big promises, small promises, cuddly shaped promises. Each with a time and a place they've been promised to be. And the people of Old Dominion never turn away a promise, or overpromise, or make an empty promise. We keep them. A promise is everything to Old Dominion, because it means everything to you.
Stage for the All-American Summer Concert Series. 1 hour from now, our buddy Joe Nichols is going to take the stage as you listen to him sing about Sunny and 75. So maybe in addition to being a great musician, he's a frustrated weather guy, because Sunny and 75 sounds like the weather. And he's going to be with us very, very shortly. We're going to go down and talk to him. You know, he grew up, his dad was playing bass in a local band. And then when he got a little older, Joe was a DJ at night, and during the day, he was a mechanic.
That's really cool. He was nominated for 4 Grammys, and he said, I was watching an interview with him, he was so humble. He said, I'm glad I didn't win them, because I would have tripped on stage. I wouldn't have known what to say in my speech. But he lost to like Johnny Cash and Clint Black. But he said, just to be nominated, I looked around and I saw all these celebrities, and he's like, I'm not supposed to be here.
How cool is this?
Yeah. And then Brian, he said he was singing at the Grand Ole Opry, and he's the only person that had an undergarment thrown on stage. It was a green bra from a girl from Vanderbilt that was in the audience. And he said, I was excited at first, and then I thought, I'm at the Grand Ole Opry. This is like such a coveted spot. I shouldn't be.
My family's watching.
Yeah, he said everyone makes fun of him for it.
Ted, what is the etiquette when you get a green bra thrown at you? To throw it back? I mean, do you...
I think he said he got it back.
He did get it back?
She got it back,
Right.
yeah.
She had to prove identity. Just one of the choruses. I'm somewhere where it's sunny and 75, you and me on a beach chair.
There you go.
So it's a couple song.
It sounds like a great Friday in the summer. All summer long, the Macklemores have been joining us. They are smoking barbecue on Fox Square. As you can see right there, they got all their Masterbuilt gear. As they just... They are the craziest father-son duo you're going to see.
That's awesome. So, did y'all get your food inside?
We did.
We did. It looks beautiful.
That is awesome. So, a little bit, as we said earlier, naughty and nice, the smordilla. It's a fun little recipe to do with the kids on the grill. You don't have to have a campfire. And the glizzy, which is normally your hot dog bun and your bacon-wrapped sausage. We decided to do it in some bite sizes on the little skewers for y'all to make it easier to eat, but that's French toast. Nothing goes better than French toast and some bacon.
Yep.
And then on the nice side,
bacon.
got you taken care of with the tuna and the smoked salmon.
Yeah. And all the VIPs today are getting Georgia pulled pork, smoked mac and cheese, our signature recipe, and then some baked beans with a roll. So, yeah.
Right. And tuna is the catch of the day, right?
That's right. Tuna is the catch of the day.
Okay,
I want to see you eat, Brian.
Brian,
yeah, I can't eat before noon.
Tuna is so good.
I can't eat Brian, okay, then I want to do a Fox Revenge show at noon.
All right, I'm coming back.
Delicious. Thank
And
you so much.
that tuna is from the Hudson River?
Yes. I do not think it's from the Hudson River.
But we do have a gift for Steve.
Steve, you got a gift?
What's
Somewhere in
that?
there.
A knife
It's a
So
knife set.
about
Here it
2
is,
weeks
right here.
ago, Steve tried to cut one of our recipes with a plastic knife.
I did.
And he was just seesawing.
Oh, awesome.
For like 30 seconds. I was like, I promise you it wasn't that bad of a recipe.
That's right.
So we got you a Winco knife set.
Nice? They gave us a knife set last Friday when you were on vacation.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
So sweet of y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
y'all.
All right, guys. We'll check in with you again. Appreciate it. Joe Nichols shortly. Meanwhile, 4 minutes after the hour.
That was good.
4 moments ago, former President Donald Trump issuing a new statement, moving this story forward too, ripping federal authorities over the raid at his Florida home.
Trump also slamming Attorney General Merrick Garland, who announced he personally signed off on the raid.
Peter Ducey has the latest developments. He's on the north lawn of the White House. Peter, good morning.
Good morning. The Attorney General did not answer any questions from reporters, but we do still know a lot more about who at the Justice Department thought it was appropriate to go and execute a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, and it went all the way to the top.
I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. The department does not take such a decision lightly. Where possible, it is standard practice to seek less intrusive means as an alternative to a search.
The only reason the information Garland says he wants to release wouldn't come out today is if former President Trump blocks it, and Trump claims that's not going to happen. He writes on Truth Social, "Not only will I not oppose the release of documents related to the un-American, unwarranted, and unnecessary raid, I am going a step further by encouraging the immediate release of those documents." A Trump lawyer is also now responding to reporting in the Washington Post that the Justice Department was searching with that warrant for materials that are related to nuclear weapons. Trump himself just posted again on his social media website. He says, "Nuclear weapons issue is a hoax. Just like Russia was a hoax, 2 impeachments were a hoax, the Mueller investigation was a hoax, and much more. Some sleazy people involved. Why wouldn't the FBI allow inspection of areas at Mar-a-Lago with our lawyers or others present? Made them wait outside in the heat. Wouldn't even let them get close. Said absolutely not. Planting information, anyone? Reminds me of a Christopher Steele dossier."
Not on solid ground, so they had to come up with something that would potentially terrify the American public into freely giving up their constitutional freedoms. You know, if we are on the verge of nuclear war, giving up the nuclear codes, maybe it's acceptable that they violated the president's constitutional rights.
So President Trump is making a very serious accusation there when he is suggesting that evidence could have been planted at Mar-a-Lago, but by 3 o'clock today, there should be, down in Florida, at a courthouse, a decision and a formal proceeding about releasing the search warrant, so we'll know exactly what the Justice Department thinks the president has. It may or may not reveal exactly what they, a broader picture, but he's making some very, very serious accusations there towards FBI agents. As for people at the White House here, they claim that they didn't even know Garland was going to come out and talk until we did. They say they have no advance notice.
And Peter, I know this this is a long shot, but do you have any idea what the delay was yesterday? It was the simplest address ever. I mean, what was so complex about it that they had everyone just waiting?
We don't know specifically because the Justice Department is going so bit by bit with this, but it seems like they wanted to make sure, and we saw that there were some sealed motions that were added to the search warrant, to this case, right before Garland came out. So it seems like they were trying to make sure that they had everything firmly on legal ground. And again, today, we should know a lot about what happened. Yeah. So far, the only person making any public accusations here is Donald Trump. He's saying the Justice Department and the FBI, they're in there planting evidence. They had no reason to be there. Our team wasn't there. We don't know exactly what the Justice Department was specifically doing. But if Trump sticks to his word today and does not oppose the release of this search warrant, we should at least have some more clues about what they were doing there.
All right, Peter. Thank you so much. Let's bring in House Republican Conference Chair, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, member of the House Intel Committee. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Ainsley.
Good morning. So here's the problem that the DOJ and the FBI have. They had access to Trump's Mar-a-Lago on June 3rd. Then they said put a padlock on that room so that no one else can see this information. Everyone thought, or he thought, and his staff thought they're in the clear. What happened between, and then they go to this Obama donor magistrate judge. They go to extreme measures to go into Mar-a-Lago in the cover of the night at 6:30 in the morning on Monday. What happened between June 3rd and the beginning of this week on Monday?
Well, I will tell you, Ainsley, House Republicans are going to follow the facts and demand accountability and transparency. The statement by Attorney General Merrick Garland is not nearly enough. The American people deserve to know all aspects and all details. And let's take a step back. This is Joe Biden's Department of Justice and FBI targeting his most likely presidential opponent in 2024. It is not news to the American people that President Trump is very likely to run for president. This was incredibly an overreach. It's un-American. un-American, and there's going to be a lot more questions from the FBI that the American people deserve. And I will tell you, this is systemic. This is the same agency that perpetuated the Russia hoax for years, that tried to undermine this administration, and this is just blatant politicization, and it should concern every American. I will tell you, my constituents are deeply, deeply concerned about the politicization of the FBI and Biden's DOJ.
Well, of course, the FBI director was appointed by Donald Trump, the former president. But, Congresswoman, if, you know, and they're just allegations, and we just have a little taste of the story from the New York Times and the Washington Post. They say, as Peter talked a moment ago, that apparently there was a national security concern about some of the documents allegedly at Mar-a-Lago, that they were materials from, they were higher than top secret. They were classified higher than that. As you know, they're called special access programs, and apparently they're related to nuclear weapons. We don't know if there are weapons. We don't know if they're another country's weapons. But if that is true, and they were just in the basement at Mar-a-Lago, that's kind of a big deal.
Well, certainly, Steve, there's been a lot of, again, guesses as to, and media reporting. We do not know the facts, which is why it's important to follow the facts wherever they lead. And that's why it's important in our oversight role on the House Intelligence Committee. We continue to see the FBI refuse to answer questions when they create controversies and they overreach. And that should never be the case. Congress has oversight over these agencies. We will ask those tough questions, but what I've found with Director Wray, even related to FBI controversies in my district, which led to the loss of life in a very deadly limousine crash, they are refusing to respond to basic congressional outreach. That is not okay. These agencies are paid for by hardworking taxpayer dollars. And if you can do this to a former president of the United States, every American is fearful. But of course, we will always protect national security and classified information. That is important. But the president has said, and it's important to note, Steve, that the president, when he was a sitting president, he has the right to declassify any information. So there's going to be a lot more information here that comes out when we focus on the facts.
Well, I will say that they are extremely confident that Merrick Garland and company are way over their skis on this, and they politicized it, and they were willing to cooperate, and they proved it again, saying, hey, at 3 o'clock, open up the warrant, open up the itinerary. And if you wonder why Donald Trump's distrustful, think about Clapper, think about Kleinsmith, think about Strzok, think about Page, think about McCabe, think about Comey, think about Jim Baker. They've all been disgraced and basically going after him. So if you look at the other big news today, and it normally would be bigger than life news, is the biggest climate change bill in the history of our nation is going to be jammed down our throats on a simply party line ballot. It's called the Inflation Reduction Act. But there is no proof that it does anything to inflation. Is there anything that you guys in the House can do to stop it? Any Democrats thinking about defecting?
Well, we are going to adamantly oppose this legislation. You are exactly right, Brian. It does nothing to reduce inflation. In fact, it's going to expand inflation. It should be called the Inflation Expansion Act. There is more focus on Green New Deal than any other issue in the bill, over $350 billion spent on Green New Deal additions. What is most concerning to me is the 87,000 IRS agents. And let me tell you, those agents aren't helping the American people get their tax refunds. They are focused on, again, increasing their overreach. And constituents in my district, the vast majority of the audits are for those under $70,000 for a household income. That is a significant expansion of government. That is exactly what we do not need right now. We need to absolutely stop the spending, and we are going to hold Democrats accountable this November. Democrats who voted for the $1 trillion of spending and are now voting when we're facing 40-year high inflation. They're voting for this Inflation Expansion Act that is trying to hide the Green New Deal priorities that are so out of touch with the American people, and it's going to make gas prices go up just when the American people cannot afford that.
If Republicans take over in November, would y'all be able to reverse what's happening with the IRS?
Well, we are going to do everything we can to reverse it. Absolutely, having oversight, reducing the absolute growth. The numbers that we're talking about here, Ainsley, that would make the IRS bigger than the staffs of the Pentagon, the FBI, the Border Patrol, and State Department combined. It is an army of IRS agents. It is bloated government at its worst. And this is at the same time as we're talking about FBI's politicization and overreach. It is un-American. It's not the direction that the vast majority of the American people want to be seeing in this country.
$85 billion is being added to the budget. They are in the 1960s technologically wise, and they're only putting $5 billion towards moving us, moving the technology forward. $5 billion. Instead, they're just going to give a bunch of people who 97% are unionized and vote Democrat, they're going to give them huge salaries to go out and harass the American people. It is incredible that Joe Manchin signed off on this.
Well, we will adamantly oppose it, and the American people need to hold Democrats accountable this November. Pelosi is going to force her moderate members to vote yes. House Republicans will be unified in opposition, and we will continue to make sure the American people know what Democrats are trying to hide in these big legislative bloated packages.
All right, Congresswoman Elaine Stefanik, we thank you very much for telling us how you're going to vote later on today. Thank you very much.
Elise, it's my sister's name.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thanks. Thank you.
And there were 50 senators that voted for this. It wasn't just Joe Manchin.
Right,
I know he changed his mind at the last minute.
I know, but he was the only one who gave me hope.
Yeah.
Senator Kirsten Sinema, too, over the last year and a half. Carly Shimkus, you have promised to hopefully give us the news.
I certainly have. And I'm going to start here with this, Brian. Thank you so much. Attorneys for Scott Peterson, the man convicted of killing his wife Lacey, an unborn child, in 2002, pushing for a new trial. Yesterday, the 49-year-old appeared before a judge as his team argued he was not given a fair trial and a juror was biased. In 2020, the California Supreme Court overturned Peterson's original death sentence. A Superior Court judge was appointed to decide if he did, in fact, receive a fair trial. A decision is expected in less than 90 days. The Las Vegas Police Department releasing body cam footage showing the arrest of former NFL star Marshawn Lynch. The former Seattle Seahawks running back was found sleeping in his damaged sports car on Tuesday. Police say he reeked of alcohol. Not only did Lynch fail to comply with orders, take a look at the damage to his Mustang. The left front tire is completely ripped off. And this is not Lynch's first run-in with the law. He was also arrested in 2012 for drunk driving. The CDC is easing its COVID-19 guidance. The new recommendations shift away from mandates and pivot to personal choice on issues like masking. The previous guidance of 6 feet of social distancing is now optional, as is quarantining after COVID exposure. The CDC still recommends isolation for at least 5 days after testing positive for the virus. And Steve Martin sounds like he's ready to call it a career. The actor and comedian telling The Hollywood Reporter his current Hulu project, Only Murders in the Building, might be his last, saying, quote, "When this television show is done, I'm not going to seek others. I'm not going to seek other movies. I don't want to do cameos." This is, weirdly, it. Well, Fox and Friends wants to hear your favorite Steve Martin film, so send us an email with your picks at friends@foxnews.com. We love to hear from the viewers, especially about movies this week.
Absolutely. I loved The Jerk and, of course, the Father of the Bride movies.
That's a good one. Cheaper by the dozen.
He trusted by the hot dogs in the grocery store, and he's like, I just need, what do you need, 2 buns, 3 buns. Why do you have to buy 6?
That's right. But his best movie, I think, was Parenthood.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one,
That was
too.
excellent. All right.
Well, I will say this. I used to sit and just listen to his comedy albums because I was lonely and friendless. And I would just put it on and just listen all day.
Because
I mean,
you
he
were
was bigger than
lonely,
life.
and he was a wild and crazy guy.
Every single time he would make me laugh. Will Kane, every single time we toss to him, he gives us new information.
And he's making us
look
laugh.
at that shirt.
It's
Very
The
bright.
Jerk.
I love it.
Oh, thank you, Ainsley. You like it?
I do.
It looks like
then
maybe I'll take the tag off.
I can take
We'll
it back
keep
to
it,
the
maybe.
store.
Mini Pearl.
Well, do you guys, really quickly, I don't know if you know, this has been a wonderful experience here in Iowa at the Field of Dreams. I had a little bit of a flight nightmare getting here. I got about 30 minutes sleep, and they lost my luggage. So this is one of the shirts the producers bought me. And I've been debating whether or not I should keep it. But Ainsley's just
Now
cast
you
her
have
vote.
to. You're already wearing it. You can take the tag
I
off.
thought your producers liked you.
Brian, you disagree with Ainsley on this shirt? I don't understand.
You know what? You're right.
You don't like it?
It looks
Lovely.
fantastic.
It's cute because it's so out of character for you. So I like it.
For me?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Now you got me thinking, what is my character? I'm going to tell you this, by the way. The answer to the trivia question is The Jerk. Steve was right. It is The Jerk, best Steve Martin movie. And while we're talking about movies, here I am in Iowa, standing on the site of the set for Field of Dreams. Last night, the Cubs and the Reds took the field. The Cubs won 4-2. We'll take you behind the scenes a little bit later. We had an awesome, amazing conversation you do not want to miss with a baseball legend coming up a little bit later, guys.
All right, we'll look for that. From the Field of Dreams. Thank you, Will. Meanwhile,
Thank you, Will.
If you've seen Will's luggage and you're not his size, give him back his stuff.
Somebody could be wearing it right now.
Just keep it. Just keep Will's stuff. It's an original Will cane.
He'll get it eventually.
Yeah.
All right, coming up on this Friday, UN chief sounding the alarm after fresh Russian shelling on Ukraine's largest nuclear power plant. General Jack Keane reporting for duty on the dangers. Coming up next.
All smart beds are on sale. Save 50% on the Sleep Number 360 limited edition smart bed. Ends Monday.
Want more hits? Train and win reality. Improve timing, pitch recognition, attack rate, and get more hits. Hitters love it, but pitchers...
I'm glad I'm retired.
Be ready for real. Win reality. Attention Marines and family members who spent time at Camp Lejeune.
If you spent time on base at Camp Lejeune prior to 1988 and developed any of these cancers or suffered any of these injuries, you may be eligible for significant financial compensation. Call Camp Lejeune victims to discuss your case now.
Leaking underground tanks contaminated the drinking water with benzene and other highly carcinogenic chemicals, up to 280 times acceptable levels in some instances.
There have been numerous reported cases of exposed personnel developing cancer and other serious health conditions. It is critical to take action and call Camp Lejeune victims now.
If you or someone you know spent time at Camp Lejeune before 1988 and you developed any of these cancers or injuries, call to determine your eligibility for financial compensation now. If you don't win, you pay nothing.
Call 800-685-6544. That's 800-685-6544.
Massive shelling attacks at Ukraine's nuclear power plant, the largest one in Europe, prompting the UN to push for a demilitarized zone. In a statement, the UN General Secretary warns the facility must not be used as part of any military operation. Instead, urgent agreement is needed at a technical level on a safe perimeter at demilitarization to ensure the safety of the area. Here to react, Fox News senior strategic analyst, retired four-star General Jack Keane. General, the Russians don't listen to anyone. They control the plant, but the Ukrainians are working in it. Are you concerned?
Yeah, you can't help but be concerned. I mean, this is the largest nuclear power plant in Europe and may be the largest one in the world. It has several reactors at it. And we're absolutely fortunate and blessed that we haven't had a major incident, given the fact that war is taking place around this very large nuclear power plant. I think the UN Secretary General makes a lot of sense here. Let's just get this out of the battle zone, create a demilitarized zone around it. I'd go one step further and also bring somebody in independently who's neutral to oversee the plant itself, obviously with Ukrainian workforce there as well. And the Russians certainly are using it as a base of operation. It's a headquarters for them. That's why the Ukrainians have interest in it. And the Russians have been shelling the Ukrainians from the plant, obviously inducing the Ukrainians to fire back, but more importantly, being able to render casualties on the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians, by and large, are disciplining themselves in not firing back most of the time, although at times they do. This is a very dangerous situation, and it should get resolved.
I want to get to the Iranian deal, but before we leave Ukraine, I saw the explosion in Crimea, and at least 9 aircraft, Russian aircraft, were destroyed. A senior Ukrainian military official told the New York Times the explosions were, in fact, part of a counterattack. If that is, in fact, true, what does it mean for this war?
Yeah, well, first of all, the counterattack that's taken place in Kherson Oblast, which is just north of Crimea, that has begun on a very modest scale. A lot of preparation taking place in doing that, and this will turn out to be, I think, a turning point in the war. Can the Ukrainians take back territory that the Russians have seized, and will the international community continue to support them as a result of that? If they fail to take the territory back, the Ukrainians are very concerned that the international community will begin to walk away. I mean, not precipitously, immediately, but over time. That is their fundamental concern. Here, it's very interesting. I mean, the Russians, first of all, denied no aircraft were damaged at this airfield, which is hundreds of miles from the battle lines. And the reality is, though, all the satellite photos show there's 9 or 10 airplanes that have been that have been destroyed. It could be as a result of an ammunition plant blowing up. The Ukrainians do not have weapon systems that can range that, so it could be espionage and sabotage taking place here. They obviously said that at the beginning, that this is part of their counteroffensive, but they have provided no specifics as to what took place there. The Institute for the Study of War has not been able to confirm that this was indeed a Ukrainian attack.
Let's hope it was. So if you steal somebody's land, you will not have one restful night. Meanwhile, everybody who follows you and what you believe about this Iranian deal knows you are against it, and so is any clear-thinking American. That doesn't include anyone at the White House. They're still trying to revive this nuclear deal, and now you point out the EU has proposed a major concession. If, in fact, what is the concession? What does it mean for this deal?
Yeah, well, when Netanyahu seized all the documents from an Iranian warehouse in Tehran in 2018 and exposed it to the world, it was absolutely confirmed that Iran was building a nuclear weapon. He also identified a couple of sites where secret development was taking place, something we always believed the Iranians were doing. They had parallel systems, one for civil development, the other for military development. And the IAEA inspected one of those sites and found nuclear material at that site and began a much larger investigation, which is ongoing. The EU is working out a deal where they will present to the Iranians, they already have, that investigation will be shut down if you'll sign the nuclear deal with the United States. Another major concession. And this is the fundamental concern we all have. Whether we have a nuclear deal or not, the Iranians are going to pursue nuclear weapons. And we have the evidence that they've been doing that clandestinely. And here's the evidence of it. And what we want to do is wash our hands of that evidence. Makes another issue here surrounding this deal that makes no sense whatsoever.
As bad as the domestic policy is, the foreign policy is even more concerning. And we're almost coming up to a year since the biggest disaster in American military history, and that is our evacuation from Afghanistan. General Jack Keane, have a nice weekend.
Yeah, you too, Brian. Always great talking to you.
All right, same here. It's always educational. Meanwhile, coming up on One Nation over the weekend at 8, repeating again at 11, we're going to tackle crime with the best in the business with Ray Kelly. Bill Bratton's going to be with us this week. Dr. Oz on his campaign to get that Senate seat in Pennsylvania. And this woman named Carly Shimkus is going to be there. And we go to Graceland. 45 years since the death of Elvis. Why is he still hot? And why is that movie so great? We'll discuss it. And because I went there and I brought a video camera. Still ahead on this show, Joe Nichols will rock the All-American Summer Concert Series. But first, he'll join us live on Fox Square to discuss his new album and what is it like being in New York City.
Give me that girl loving up on me, old t-shirt and a pair of jeans. That's for you I wanna see.
Nicorette knows quitting smoking
Chlorophyll is excellent for balancing pH and cleansing the body. It's the green in kale, spinach, and broccoli. Resveratrol decreases inflammation, and it's the purple in grapes and berries. Eating a wide variety of fruits and vegetables provides your body with diverse chemistry it needs to heal itself and stay well. Eat the peelings of things like apples and carrots and cucumbers. Balance of Nature is whole produce. It contains all the vital parts in balance. Color, taste, and smell keep you well, and that's what you get with Balance of Nature.
Start now by going to balanceofnature.com and don't forget to use discount code Fox News.
Hey parents and grandparents, as we wait to see what's next for President Trump, Mike Huckabee's education company wants to help your kids learn all about President Trump's greatest achievements during his first term. That's why we're giving away the Kids Guide to President Trump for free. This fun kids guide will help your kids to understand everything President Trump has already accomplished for America. What's more, it's part of a very special gift bundle that includes a free kids magazine and a free video lesson too. To learn more and order this free gift bundle, just visit freetrumpguide.com. That's freetrumpguide.com.
When you can't watch, listen. Get the latest news, business, and news headlines on SiriusXM. Anytime, anywhere. Fox News Audio on SiriusXM. America is listening.
We are back with a Fox weather alert. Flash flooding in Las Vegas, soaking folks both inside and outside the casinos. Rain pouring from the ceiling of Planet Hollywood, and Caesar's Palace got hit bad too. Meanwhile, out on the Strip, the streets looking more like rivers. This is the second time Sin City has been hit with torrential rainfall in just 2 weeks, and the region is going to get more rain through the weekend. Yikes. Well, it's all sunshine for the Massapequa Coast, who are on the verge of Little League history. New York's Boys of Summer are just one win away from clinching a spot in the Little League World Series. This would be the first time the Long Island program would make the tournament in its 72-year existence. Massapequa faces a rematch today against Toms River East for the decisive winner-take-all game. Guys, outside to you.
That's good. It's big news in my town.
Very
72
nice.
years.
Thank you, Carly. Meanwhile, he's the country singer bridging the gap between the genre's old school roots and the contemporary era.
And now his new album, Good Day for Living, ushers in upbeat classic influence country, making it his first full-length project in 4 years.
Next year, we're going to get a teleprompter out here. Joining us right now, three-time Grammy Award nominee Joe Nichols. Joe, great to see you.
Good to see you, too. You guys. Y'all got one in papers I can borrow?
Just to say something, we just thank you at the end.
Okay.
The rest is unscripted. Joe, so what's it like to be here in New York?
It's great, man. It's great to see the city again. I haven't been here in a few years. Good to see the fans came out today, and that feels good. Still the same old noises.
Now, Joe, I listened to all these interviews this morning of you when I was prepping for the show, and you're so humble. I mean, you've been nominated for 4 Grammys, or is it more than that now? I don't know which.
It's 4.
It's 4, yeah.
Been stuck
Lost
on 4
to like
for a while.
Johnny Cash, but you deserve it. But you were so humble. You said, if I won, what would I do? I might trip when I go up on stage. I'd have to memorize a speech. I'm looking around. I'm sitting with all these celebrities. You've come so far, 20 years. You've been in Nashville. Really good friends with Blake Shelton, right?
Good friends with Blake. Been friends with him for about 23, 24 years. But yeah, you know, to the Grammy thing, you know, I don't know. I've thought about that since. If I ever won one, I'd probably rub it in everybody's face. Like, I won, and y'all didn't. No, I wouldn't do that.
You will.
I'd lose that humility.
You will.
Yeah.
You definitely will.
That's fantastic. I'm sure your family's very proud. I know your dad played bass.
Yeah.
And then when you were growing up, you were a DJ at night.
Yes.
But during the day, you did the really fun job. You were a mechanic.
I did all kinds of crazy stuff. Looking back, I was a DJ at a radio station when I was in high school. So I would do the midnight to 6 shift, and then
During high school?
When did you sleep? I didn't. That's the beauty of being young.
And during the pandemic, you spent a lot of time with the girls, right?
Sorry?
You spent a lot of time with your children,
Oh, I
right?
did, yeah.
Those girls. Those girls.
I did what?
No.
Sorry. Are we live? No, I did. That's one of the blessings, you know, from the pandemic. I got to stay home a lot more than I usually do. You know, I get to play dad. I got to go to basketball practices and do things like, you know, normal things like take them to school, get them from school. And I was so happy to get to fall in love with my wife again, you know, because we don't spend a lot of time around each other when we're touring real heavy.
It could go either way. You know, a lot of times could be bad, you know.
The first 6 weeks, she was like, can you please find something to do?
Right.
You know, but
Was she always wearing a mask around the house?
Was she wearing? No.
She started her business during the
She
pandemic.
did start a
right?
business, yeah. She started selling britches, as she would say. She started selling this athletic wear called Zaya, so she's doing really well at that.
So Joe, you've been really high up. You had times when you felt like you hit a slump, and then you're up high again. Did you change your goals along the way?
I don't think I changed my goals. I think I changed my perspective. You know, I'm grateful today for anything. I'm grateful. If it ended today, I would be grateful for everything that's happened. And I think that's changed the way I feel about everything, changed the way I think. And I think that's kind of what this new song, Good Day for Living, is kind of about, like seeing life from a grateful perspective, no matter what the circumstance is. So that's the one thing I think that has changed for me most from winning awards or having, you know, big successful numbers or doing this or that. I think you can appreciate that if you're grateful no matter what.
Sure, and you are a very grounded man. Explain for the folks what you've got right there.
This is a cuff that says Isaiah 11:11. I got that from a fan, and it matches my tattoo over here, okay. Isaiah 11:11, which is a Bible verse. It's a prophecy that fits me.
And you got it on the other arm, too.
Yes, I got one on the other arm. This is Psalm 91, one of my other favorite verses. So I like to keep connected to that big guy up there, and these things remind me when things get a little fast, I need to stop, take a break, and think about where my rest is at, and remember that no matter how many pieces I'm scattered in, he'll put me back together.
And I'm just looking at your set list. You have a lot of hits to go over. Do you think you can accomplish and sing all these songs?
And we're going to give it a try.
2 hours?
We're going to try. We're going to try it, yeah.
All right. Joe Nichols, everybody.
Thank you.
It says here I'm supposed to thank Joe Nichols. Did I do that? I did that.
That's right.
And also, plus, we're going to be hearing Joe perform Good Day for Living, as you mentioned, in the next hour, but you're going to be playing throughout on Fox Nation. We'll be able to stream the whole thing.
Yeah, we'll do a whole hour.
All right.
Thank you, Joe.
So our All-American Summer Concert Series hour kicks off in 20 minutes and 20 seconds. Are you guys ready? We're taking a time out. Fox and Friends continues live from New York right after this.
From prom dresses
pounds. It feels really good to be able to button your jacket and not worry about it blowing up.
Go to GoLow.com to lose weight and get healthier.
Two people worked together for 12 years. Colleagues, friends. Now one is being harassed, threatened, even an armed assassin was after him. The other could stop it, but doesn't. Merrick Garland and Brett Kavanaugh. Merrick Garland is the Attorney General. He should uphold the rule of law, protect his former colleagues and the court. Instead, he's cowering to the woke mob. Merrick Garland. Bad for the court then, bad for the court now.
Here's to those with homework this summer, group projects, and workshops. Here's to those with morning meetings, networking events, and Zoom sessions. Here's to those with summer jobs and the truck that goes to work with them. Ram, built to serve.
Shop and buy online with Ram eShop. And these days, when every dollar counts, take advantage of this great offer from Ram Trucks.
Quarter before the top of the hour and another Fox News alert. Ohio investigators are now reporting the armed suspect who tried to storm an FBI field office with a gun and a nail gun and then led authorities on a chase was motivated by the raid on former President Trump's Florida home earlier this week.
It was a 6-hour-long standoff ending in a hail of bullets.
It's amazing how much stuff is going on this week, including this. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington with the details. Griff.
Hey, Brian, Ainsley, and Steve. It was a terrifying situation yesterday. An armed suspect, identified now as Ricky Schiffer Jr., attempted to breach the visitor screening facility at the FBI's Cincinnati field office before leading police on a 60-mile chase north. Schiffer was shot and killed in an exchange of gunfire. Listen here. And we learned more details about the weapons Schiffer had from that dispatcher call.
He tried to break into the FBI building in Cincinnati.
Can we get some other units starting this way too then?
96 is behind it. There's about 6 or 7 trying to catch up. Northbound from the 32.
Spot 4711 and FBI did confirm that he had a nail gun as well as an AR-15.
We're maintaining right lane and 70 miles per hour. He has not made any movements.
Ohio State Police say attempts to negotiate with Schiffer failed, and they were left with no choice but to shoot and kill him after he fired shots at law enforcement. Officials also say that Schiffer may have been motivated by the recent raid at Mar-a-Lago. On his now deleted Truth Social page, you can see here he's calling on his followers to attack federal agents to hold them responsible. Now, this comes after FBI Director Chris Wray warned about threats to agents in a bureau-wide email saying, quote, "As always, the way we maintain the trust and confidence of the American people isn't by joining in the public commentary. We do it through our work by showing when all the facts come out. We stuck to the process. We don't cut corners. We don't play favorites. Our focus must remain, as always, on our mission and on doing the right thing in the right way, no matter how loud the noise gets." And finally, guys, the Cincinnati FBI field office says that this shooting is currently under investigation. Brian, Ainsley, and Steve?
I bet. Griff, thank you very much. Also, NBC is reporting apparently this guy was at the January 6th riot at the Capitol, and they are exploring whether or not he's got ties to the Proud Boys. More on that later. In the meantime, a Fox News alert, and the former president now lashing out at federal authorities over the raid at Mar-a-Lago, including AG Garland, who admits he personally signed off on the execution of that search warrant on Monday.
The former president demanding the immediate release of all the documents related to the raid, which could be released as soon as today.
All right, former federal prosecutor Bret Tolman joins us now. Bret, the president's not standing in the way. They said, oh, he had his bluff called. What do you think we're going to see today when we look at this warrant and when we look possibly at what items were taken?
Well, look, you know, they say a grand jury can indict a ham sandwich. Well, there's another phrase out there, and that is there's a judge for every search warrant. What we're going to see is the justification for a search warrant that was put together by the Department of Justice and then presented to a judge that was friendly. They have complete control over which judge they're going to present it to. They just wait for the one that's up at that moment and then present it.
So we'll probably see the search warrant sooner than later. The big question is how much of it may be redacted, if anything. But what we really want to see, what we really need to see, is the affidavit, because that's like a menu. That's where the Department of Justice says, okay, this, and this is what is prompting us to ask for this search warrant. Given the fact that there are a couple of big stories out there that it sounds like these documents involved nuclear weapons, a lot of people would like to see it, but there's a possibility we never will.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be redactions, both in the warrant as well as, with respect to any of the justification given to the judge, the documents that were actually sought after. Keep in mind, I go back to 2020 when Attorney General Barr was asked whether or not he was going to investigate and prosecute Obama and Biden for their involvement in the Russia collusion hoax that was revealed during his time as AG. And he said, not while I'm Attorney General. I will not politicize the Department of Justice. And what a short period of time between then and now, when we see the Department of Justice lose all credibility in pursuing the former president on an issue. They could have received all the documents, they could have worked with them, with their lawyers, and had no reason to go this route.
I want to talk about the judge, this magistrate judge. He recused himself in a case earlier with Trump and Hillary Clinton. Why didn't he recuse himself in this? Because he said he had bias. He's given money to Barack Obama. Did they shop around to different judges, you think, until they found the one that would sign off on this?
Typically, Ainsley, the judges will have a rotation, and it's a predictable rotation. So the agents and the assistant U.S. attorneys, the Department of Justice, they know which judge is up and at which time. And they would have presented it at the time that they believed that they had a favorable judge that would have reviewed it and was willing to grant the department's request. I think the biggest issue here is what people aren't talking about in the Department of Justice is that they operate in a vacuum. They don't have somebody on the inside saying to the Attorney General, just because we can, should we? And instead, they operate with yes people around them who simply want to pursue these because they think that the ends justify the means.
Hey, Bret, I appreciate that inside information, but there's also a logic. There's a reason why this has never been done before. And Merrick Garland either has taken the fall or decided that I want to make news like this, and I think it's going to blow up in his face. Bret Tolman, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, meanwhile, check this out. Let's go to the Port Authority now to do something we've been doing every other day for the past 2 weeks. Watch illegal immigrants who crossed in Texas, get on a bus, sign a waiver, and then let them get out at the Port Authority in New York City.
This is the second bus this morning that has come into the Port Authority from Texas.
It is. And, of course, famously, you have seen over the last couple of months the buses that were shipping migrants courtesy of the state of Texas, first wound up going to the District of Columbia, and then the District of Columbia mayor a few weeks ago was complaining about what was going on and saying that the people on the buses were tricked into getting on. And as you watch these migrants get off,
look at them.
Now also
got their little bags.
This time going to New York City. Doesn't look like anybody was tricked. Looks like everybody's happy to be there. Of course, those are probably city officials, people who are going to try to help process them and try to find a place for them to stay. Although I was reading in one of the local papers this morning that apparently people at some of the other shelters who are trying to be processed, either because the migrants are coming in, they don't have room, or the migrants can't find room as well. So there are a number of people who are coming to New York City and immediately saying, you know what, I'm going to go someplace else. And it's not just for the crime, although that was a story that we were talking about earlier this week. They didn't feel it was safe.
The governor of Texas and the mayor of New York have had sparring words exchanged between the two of them, because the governor of Texas says we can't handle this many migrants, so I'm going to ship them off to these sanctuary cities that have encouraged these migrants to come across the border. Once they get to these cities, like here in New York City, our mayor, Eric Adams, is saying, don't send them here. We don't have the resources. We want FEMA money. Some of them are calling in the National Guard, like Muriel Bowser down in D.C., and our mayor here in New York said, I'm going to send a bus down to Texas to campaign against the governor there,
Right.
Governor Abbott, and he says, bring it on. He said, I don't think the people in Texas will appreciate having New Yorkers come and tell them who to vote for.
Yeah, the buses aren't usually packed. We've seen between 20 and maybe 60 people
Mostly
most.
men.
Yeah, mostly men. So basically, they're here because they want to be here. They don't seem to be somebody in the middle of adversity. They wouldn't normally fit the criteria of people that need sanctuary. They think our country's better than theirs. They're probably right. We just can't do it with everyone. We can't take on other countries' populations and have no immigration system. There's not another country in the world that will allow thousands of people, up to 4 million over the next 2 years, and put into their social welfare system. I don't care how great they are, how smart they are, how hard they're willing to work. This is not the way it's supposed to work, and you have an administration and a president who will fully ignore this. What's going to be so interesting is the mayor of New York City and the mayor Bowser of D.C. have asked for federal help. It is out there. Somehow the White House has got to answer. Are they going to answer and give federal help to with these little inconveniences these cities get, including the one we're in right now, and ignore what they do in a small town America, in Arizona, in New Mexico, in California, and especially in Texas? Would he have the audacity to do that?
Well, the the District of Columbia asked for National Guard again yesterday, and they were denied. Will they get cash? Don't know. The danger for the New Yorkers that are going to be sent to Texas, though, to campaign against Governor Abbott is they'll probably love Texas. They may never come back to New York City.
Yeah, right. The taxes there are a lot better. What will he do? Put him on a bus? Who wants to do that and go that far to go campaign?
Just trying to be symbolic.
You don't live in. All right, let's hand it over to Adam Klotz. He has a special guest with him. Hey, Adam.
Hey, guys. Yes, I do. A very special guest out here. It's Owen Loof. He is the best dressed man in Rockaway, but he's also been the best dressed man at the All-American Concert Series all summer long.
Alarm after
you've
fresh
got a book
Russian
actually that's coming out called The Best Dressed Man in Rockaway. So this is like you are known for this, absolutely. Can you tell me a little bit about your style and your fashion, what it takes?
It has been a growing process, all right? And I just go and it just jumps out at me, right? I walk into a store and this place, it just jumped out. And I bought it.
And you never wear the same thing twice, at least not here.
No, you couldn't do that. How could you wear the same thing twice?
I'm not gonna lie, I've worn this before. People at home have seen this suit before. How would you tell me to dress? Any ideas?
That suit it's conservative.
Conservative.
But it looks good. It looks good. We can add a little bling to it, I think, and that would make it a little better. Yes.
A little bit of bling.
A little bit of bling never hurts.
So do people ever ask for your advice on how to look sharper when they're planning anything special?
Absolutely, absolutely. All my friends come up to me all the time asking me. They ask me to take them shopping. Yes, it happens all the time.
And it's your birthday, and we're gonna bring in. We got a little birthday surprise for you.
Thank you guys are the best.
Happy birthday, Owen.
Hurry and blue, man.
We're celebrating out here. We're throwing it back into you guys.
Thank you. And all my wishes always come true.
Steve, throwing it into you.
All right, Adam, thank you very much. A lot of fun outside. We'll be out there in 4 minutes. All right, meanwhile, moving on. Critics have been calling out the New York Times liberal bias for years, but this might actually take the cake. Former opinion editor Bari Weiss now revealing a behind-the-scenes fight at the paper that took place over an op-ed pitched by Senator Tim Scott, who at the time was one of the leading lawmakers working on a police reform bill. Listen to this.
There was a discussion about the piece and whether or not we should run it. And one colleague, a more senior colleague, said to a more junior colleague who was pushing for the piece, "Do you think the Republicans really care about minority rights?"
Wow.
And the more junior colleague said, "I think Tim Scott cares about minority rights." And then, and here's the pretty shocking part, the more senior colleague said, "Let's check with Senator Schumer before we run it." And the colleague, the younger one, refused.
And that op-ed by Tim Scott never got published. What's up with that? Fox News contributor Joe Concha joins us right now. Joe, I think the scariest thing in that whole passage is the fact that before we run it, we got to call up Chuck Schumer, and he's got to give us the green light. Who exactly is running the paper?
Disturbing but not surprising, Steve. Yeah, who is running the paper? And we hear from the Times a lot about diversity and the importance of it, and we could all get behind that in newsrooms. But you know, the most important kind of diversity is the diversity of thought, of ideas. And we're both old enough to remember the violent summer of 2020, Steve, right? When Senator Tom Cotton, Republican, former military, wrote an op-ed in the New York Times regarding using the National Guard if riots got out of control. And if you look at polling at the time, this proposal was like a 50-50 toss-up, a worthy debate. But some woke writers at the New York Times revolted against the editor, James Bennett. He only won a Pulitzer, and he was shown the door a couple of days later for having the audacity of publishing this op-ed from Cotton. So to hear that a senior editor took issue with Tim Scott, the only black Republican senator, writing about police reform, with this editor saying, hey, maybe we should check with Chuck Schumer, it really shows that so many decision makers at the New York Times aren't there to serve and inform the public, but to serve at the pleasure of the Democratic Party. And that ain't journalism, Steve. It's activism.
Yeah, it sure is. Here is from the same podcast, Senator Tim Scott, in the discussion about that. He just heard what she had to say about how they had to check with Chuck Schumer first. Here's what he said.
I am disappointed to hear that. I am not surprised to hear that. There is something in national media that wants to frame any conservatives, particularly black conservatives, as being disingenuous or insincere or a tool for the conservatives, when in fact the black community is consistently as conservative as any community.
Joe?
Just ask Clarence Thomas, right? The way he's portrayed, or Dr. Ben Carson. Bears repeating, and I'll be quick here, Steve. The New York Times has not endorsed a Republican presidential candidate since Dwight D. Eisenhower. We're talking 14 straight presidential elections, which means endorsing Democratic heavyweights like McGovern, Carter, Mondale, Dukakis, and Kerry. So, yeah, the New York Times is called the paper of record. It's really not. And what they did to Tim Scott is deplorable. And I'm glad that Bari Weiss, who used to work for the New York Times and is not going to be invited to CPAC anytime soon, she's quite to the left, was able to call this out and expose it for what it was.
I got a feeling the New York Times could actually endorse a Republican for president if Chuck Schumer tells them to.
Probably.
Yeah,
Probably,
we'll see.
Sir.
Joe, thank you very much.
Have a good weekend.
You too. I'll see you over at the Market Basket, the grocery store in our town. By the way, we did reach out to the New York Times for a statement. They have not gotten back to us. All right, hour 3 of Fox and Friends started 13 seconds ago.
Every tailgate way out there was like, yeah, yeah. She started walking over to me like she already knew me. She sat down right beside me and asked if I was here alone. I said, yeah, yeah, like I was nodding right along to a song on the radio. Yeah, yeah. Well, how could I say no? Whatever you're drinking, that's what I'm drinking. Girl, you're calling the shots tonight. Whatever you're thinking, that's what I'm thinking. Tell me what you got in mind so I can say yeah, 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 yeah. She brought me a cup and I tried it. A little fruity, but she asked if I liked it. So I said, yeah.
You know, there's some singers who sound totally different when they speak as opposed to they sing. He sounds exactly the same, Joe Nichols. We interviewed him a few minutes ago, and now he's out playing for an hour straight. You can watch it on Fox Nation. We'll cover a few of his songs bumping in and out and one complete song at the end. Joe Nichols, a very positive, upbeat guy.
He is,
I mean, if he was to put a soundtrack on Anthony Robbins, Mr. Personal Power, it would be Joe Nichols, because there's no controversy and stuff.
He's funny, he's very real, he's a family guy, he has kids, he has a beautiful wife. He talked a lot about the pandemic and spending time with his kids and being able to go to all these games and fall more in love with his wife. And he has scripture tattooed on both arms.
I think part of that could be just so he shows you his biceps. We were talking about that earlier.
We don't mind.
Figured that could be part of the equation. Anyway, a great guy, and he's our featured performer in the All-American Summer Concert Series.
So, Steve, what you're saying, if you have a good body and you're watching us right now, get a tattoo. Is that what you...
Then you can show off your body.
That's what I'm thinking. That's the message. You're supposed to
Geraldo
learn
is coming
something.
up. He has a number of tattoos. We'll ask him about that.
How many do you think? Want to bet?
Over 10.
Really? Over 10.
Yeah.
10?
I say 6. 6 tattoos.
Right. Plus 10. Let's see.
And when was the
I don't
last
know.
tattoo?
I'm doing that interview, so how do I ask him?
We'll ask him in the green room.
Yeah, we'll ask him.
All right.
All right.
All right. In the meantime, if you'd like to watch Joe Nichols, go to foxnation.com because it is streaming live. And at foxandfriends.com, I think, too. In the meantime, within the last 90 minutes, former President Donald Trump has issued a new statement ripping accusations that he smuggled classified documents about nuclear weapons out of the Oval Office and into Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, that came across in the Washington Post about 8 o'clock last night. Eastern. Trump also slamming Attorney General Merrick Garland, who announced he personally signed off on the raid.
Peter Ducey has the latest developments from the White House. Peter, will we see these warrants today, you think?
We might, and that's because a court in Florida is ordering that by 3 p.m. today, the Justice Department and the Trump team both need to agree, both need to sign off on unsealing this search warrant. And Trump claims that he's not going to block it. He said on online, quote, "Not only will I not oppose the release of documents related to the un-American, unwarranted, and unnecessary raid, I'm going a step further by encouraging the immediate release of those documents." We know the Trump team was in contact for months with the Justice Department about documents, and some were turned over. The Washington Post is reporting that the Justice Department thought he was holding out on them and keeping documents related to nuclear weapons. So to that allegation, Trump writes, "Nuclear weapons issue is a hoax, just like Russia was a hoax. 2 impeachments were a hoax. The Mueller investigation was a hoax, and much more. Some sleazy people involved. Why wouldn't the FBI allow the inspection of areas at Mar-a-Lago with our lawyers or others present? Made them wait outside in the heat? Wouldn't let them get even close. Said absolutely not. Planting information, anyone? Reminds me of a Christopher Steele dossier." The White House claims they are not involved with any of this. The Attorney General says he is the one pulling the strings.
I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. The department does not take such a decision lightly. Where possible, it is standard practice to seek less intrusive means as an alternative to a search.
So President Trump, former President Trump, is alleging that the FBI was at his house planting evidence. But if this search warrant is released today, if it is unsealed today, then we will see exactly what evidence the Justice Department thinks he had and what evidence they went in there to get. Back to you.
Wow. Thanks, Peter. It's unbelievable. So they have till 3 o'clock today. But it doesn't necessarily mean they got to release it at 3 o'clock today. It's still up to that.
The judge could decide.
That was the deadline.
That judge. It's just amazing because if you look, let's say there is a top secret intelligence there that the president took out. No doubt about it, compared to Hillary Clinton and her emails. She got basically allowed to continue to run for president. No one raided her house. She took her time in turning over the emails. And if Anthony Weiner wasn't such a mutant on his laptop, we would not even have known what else that Hillary Clinton did irresponsibly. But she was still a favorite to win the presidency up until the last day. And they wait for this former president to leave, and they raid his compound, and we still don't know why.
Right. Although there are a couple of papers that are saying, as Peter did, it could be relating to nuclear weapons. Let's bring in, which is, that's a headline. Let's bring in Matthew Whitaker, former acting attorney general under Donald Trump. Matt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, so the nuclear weapon angle certainly changes it. It's not like, they didn't turn over a menu from a state dinner or a napkin or a note from Kim Jong-un. This apparently is alleged to be something called a special access program document, which is higher than top secret. You know all about that. You can't reveal any of that stuff in public.
We can't talk about that, Steve.
You can't. Exactly right. So what we can talk about is what the people can expect to see today. If the deadline was 3 o'clock, Donald Trump is now encouraging the Department of Justice to release the subpoena. What are we going to see? When are we going to see it? And will we ever see the affidavit, which is the roadmap to why they wound up there?
No, you're right. And good morning and greetings from Iowa. This subpoena and the search warrant together with the inventory is going to tell us a little bit. And what's going to be really frustrating, I think, for a lot of us that are following this very closely is that the inventory is going to be redacted. We saw that in the Department of Justice's motion yesterday. So anything that is going to be classified or named is going to be described in a very generic fashion. So I'm not sure that just the cover page of the warrant together with the inventory is going to give us what we want, because to your point, what we really want to see, and what I think most people that have law enforcement experience want to see, is the sworn affidavit that actually lays out the probable cause and the reason for this search of Mar-a-Lago. It could include such as statements from individuals who had knowledge, recent knowledge of what was at Mar-a-Lago, and I think that's the most important thing, but I'm not sure we're ever going to see that, or if we do, it won't be until a case is charged, which is typical for cases like this.
Yeah, well, to that point, Merrick Garland said that it was authorized because of probable cause. Jackie Heinrich, our reporter in Washington, said a federal law enforcement source told her the probable cause for a search warrant very likely came from a Secret Service member. We obviously don't know if that's the case, but that's what the sources are telling her. Is that what you imagine happened? I mean, the people at Mar-a-Lago are people that work for him, or his family, or members of Mar-a-Lago, and then also Secret Service?
So I know the judge in this case has been a little controversial, but the standard is typically that you want the probable cause and the information that supports that probable cause to issue this warrant to be fresh. And so they're going to have had someone with recent knowledge of where this evidence was and you know, what the crime that was allegedly committed would be. And so, I mean, there's been a lot of speculation as to who or if, but it seems to me that that would be a typical situation. You would have a person with recent knowledge that had talked to the FBI about this confidential or classified information.
So, Matt, the way we understand it is June 6th, they have this meeting. The president drops by and says, anything you guys need, I appreciate what you do. June 22nd, someone allegedly comes forward, might have been Secret Service, had speculated and said, he's got some top secret stuff you should take a look at, and here's where it's located. So they finally decide, cut off communication. They get the warrant. They still hold on to the warrant for a couple of days. It's such an emergency. And then they got to wait for him to leave in order not to cause a scene. So he's gone in New Jersey and New York City. And then they raid his place. And the word is the Justice Department did it in a low-profile way not to create this firestorm. How clueless are they to think they could just line up with guards, take over a compound for 9 hours with the FBI and countless trucks, along with with airplanes, and not think it's going to create a firestorm? How much of an emergency can it be if they hold on to the warrant for a couple of days and don't do anything?
Brian, you're absolutely right. This has caused a complete firestorm. They should have anticipated, and it does demonstrate how insulated on the 5th floor the Department of Justice is. You know, Merrick Garland said one thing that I just disagree with, and he said that this, you know, obviously DOJ policy, they need to use the least intrusive means for obtaining this evidence. In this case, they went in with, you know, dozens of agents to execute a search warrant, and there had to be a way to not cause this firestorm. They didn't want to do it. They wanted this attention, and they wanted to, I think, demonstrate that Donald Trump is under investigation. They wanted this attention?
They wanted this attention, you think?
Brian, there's so many other ways to get this information. Either to continue to negotiate, they could have turned up the heat with a second subpoena. They could have, you know, I mean, they took this step and they crossed a line that they intentionally did, and they knew that it was going to cause this firestorm, and now they have it, and it seems to me that they didn't get what they wanted when they executed the search warrant, so they're trying to walk it back. It's going to be very interesting in the coming days what we learn.
Like, for example, does this have anything to do with January 6th? Did they go in there on one premise and they trying to pull out things to help an investigation?
Matt, thank you very much for joining us from Iowa. Why are you in Iowa?
You're not there. Game?
Are you live there?
Field of Dreams?
I was at the Field of Dreams game last night, and I'm going to the State Fair today.
Nice.
So it's going to be a great day in Iowa.
Are your kids with you?
Of course. In fact, one of them's working at the corn dog stand.
Oh,
the whole fair.
Excellent. And just out of curiosity, are you wearing Bermuda shorts right now?
I don't want to talk about what is my lower half, but you know how to. You know, you're a professional. You know how this is done.
He's know exactly an agent. He's not allowed to tell that classified information either.
That's right.
You know, at the State Fair, they have those jars, and you can put a corn kernel in who you're voting for or who you think will win, and they're never wrong. It's interesting, but that's usually during a presidential election, I think, isn't
during
it?
the caucus years.
Yep, they had Teddy Roosevelt.
All right, listen, Matt, thank you very much for joining us. Go have something wrapped in bacon.
It will be fried for sure.
College football player from Iowa.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Meanwhile, breaking news over the last half hour or so ago, the last time we saw some of the buses from Texas that showed up here in New York City was on Wednesday. And just within the last half hour, 2 or 3 more buses showed up. And as you can see here, the migrants from Texas are streaming out into New York City. Where they go next, we don't know. They didn't know until those people who are shaking their hands said, okay, we've got an address right here. Go to this address and we're going to take care of you.
Abbott keeps sending them up to New York City, and the mayor here is not happy about it because he says they can't pay for it. They're trying to get FEMA money. FEMA keeps denying them that money. So we'll see. But our homeless shelters are apparently filling up, and so are the ones down in D.C. So you've got these 2 mayors that are calling on Abbott to stop sending them. Meanwhile, they were for this. They love the sanctuary cities. They wanted the immigrants to come across, but now they're complaining once they hit their city.
They're absolutely insane. They have not a leg to stand on. Let's think about this. You have Governor Abbott for 2.5 years trying to get people to pay attention to what's happening at the border. So he has to pay for his own Texas Rangers to help wrangle people. He's got to pay for his own National Guard to help wrangle people. When you don't build the wall, he's got to build his own wall. Now he's got to go hire bus drivers to bus people away from his state because they are overrun, and small town America is overrun, and because New York City, which prides itself on being able to absorb wide swaths of people from all around the world, is now complaining. And get this, some of the illegals are complaining about the accommodations, so they're taking some of the charity money and going to Washington, D.C. And some of the homeless people are saying, how come the illegals are getting priority? They're being treated better than me.
Hey, and
absolute chaos.
Brian, remember a few days ago we talked about one of these buses pulling in, and our mayor in New York went to go greet the migrants that were coming off the bus. And he said, where are all the migrants? There are only 14, I believe, on the bus. I thought there were dozens of them. Well, there weren't. And apparently the bus stops along the way and lets people off. I don't know if it's where they want to be dropped off because they have family members, but it's stopping along the way and letting them go where they want to go. And we interviewed a sheriff earlier from Dade County, Georgia, who said that's what happened. Some of these buses coming up to New York City, they stopped in his county in Georgia, and some of the migrants wanted to stay there. Listen.
Been receiving information for several weeks now that buses were dropping off at the truck stop in Rising Pond, and we got a call from the store that day, and they said, hey, they're down here right now doing it. Well, based off the conversation the sheriff had with the bus driver was, in the sheriff's opinion, encouraging them to get off by telling them that they were close enough to Chattanooga to walk from there, which was absolutely not the truth. And they just dropped them off in essentially the middle of the country. You know, there's nothing down there except the truck stop and farmhouses and farmland. So leaving them there would have essentially been establishing a homeless camp. The governor said he was making a phone call to the owner of the bus line to ask him not to stop here. You know, it's not essentially humane to drop somebody off in the middle of nowhere and just expect them to fend for themselves.
Right. And what the sheriff told us was that, you know, a lot of people think that the buses start in Texas and end up either in New York or Washington, D.C., but a lot can happen between here and there because apparently there were people on the bus who were communicating with the driver, you know, we want to go to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And so he goes,
he said, you can walk there.
Why don't you get off here? Not walking distance. So those people, had they taken that advice, they would be in for a sure surprise. But ultimately, if Texas is hiring the buses to send people to New York or Washington, they probably should have the same number of people on the bus at the end as they do at the beginning.
All I can tell you is try to go to Canada. They don't do this. They have a hard time accepting Americans. You got to prove. There are people who kicked off going to baseball games because they don't have the proper ID going into Canada. In Mexico, they are much stricter. But in America, we let everybody in. We don't seem to care. It just overruns our social welfare system.
Well, we're Americans.
No other country would do this.
We're Americans. In order for us to get back into our country, we have to show a passport and an ID.
Sure. Anyway, that's so we've got maybe another 100 people here in New York City, courtesy of the state of Texas. And now where will they go? Stay tuned.
Meanwhile, a woman that had to show her ID to get into work today, Carly Shimkus.
Good morning, Brian.
We
As
all
do
do.
you. We all
We
do.
all
We
do.
follow the rules.
Yes.
Got some headlines to get to here, starting with a tragic update on Anne Heche. The actress is not expected to survive her injuries after crashing her Mini Cooper into a Los Angeles home last week, sparking a fire. A representative for the actress tells Fox that Heche is being kept on life support to determine if any of her organs can be donated. The LAPD was reportedly investigating Heche for a felony DUI after a woman inside the home told authorities she suffered injuries. Nancy Pelosi's son, who joined the House Speaker on her controversial trip to Taiwan, is the second largest investor in a $22 million Chinese telecom company. A new report reveals Paul Pelosi Jr. served as a consultant at one point. He was awarded 700,000 shares of stock for his services, making him the company's fifth largest shareholder. The Speaker claims her son joined her as an escort and stressed that her son had no business dealings during the trip. Listen to this. 5,000 sailors and Marines left San Diego 7 months ago on the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, and 20 of them returned home as fathers, meeting their babies for the first time, reporting for dad duty.
First time holding your baby, how's it feel? Pretty good. I'm doing it all right.
The whole time, you know, it's look forward to this moment. So being able to be off first, to have this moment, like right here, that's what's most important.
Oh, the little ones you just saw are named Reagan and Maverick. Maybe a Top Gun reference there, but how cute is that, guys?
That is great. I don't think I've ever mentioned, I was actually born when my father was stationed in Germany, and given the way the U.S. Army worked back then, they immediately sent my dad home when I was 18 months old.
Oh.
Wow. So my dad saw
a little
me
bit of a wait.
First time when I was a year and a half old. And my mom was delighted to see him because there was a great big bug in the bathroom that needed killing.
Wow. That's what she said. That's why she was excited to see
So was your
Maybe
first
that's my
language
joke.
German?
No.
No?
It would
Go
be.
ahead and tell the audience.
I took German in high school.
I think I saw that
Yeah.
somewhere.
All right.
Anyway, thank you,
I
Carly.
saw that montage somewhere, too.
Yeah.
Coming up next, Geraldo Rivera is going to join us. But first, here is Joe Nichols performing Hawaii on Me on the Fox Square.
Good Joe, tiptoes in the water and ashes to sea. When I die, go to Hawaii on me. I've made a good living, I lived a good life. I raised some great kids, I loved a great wife. So get on a plane in the first class seat. Y'all, when I die, go to Hawaii on me.
Ever better.
Save 50% on the Sleep Number 360 limited edition smart bed. Ends Monday.
Veterans, when you're struggling, soon becomes later, becomes someday, becomes when. Don't wait. Reach out.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Do you listen to the TV on high volume or have trouble hearing conversations? Then you would benefit from hearing aids. Don't waste thousands on expensive hearing aids when you can get Nano's revolutionary technology for just $297. Don't be fooled by higher-priced hearing aids. The CIC Recharge is a true hearing aid, not an amplifier. With rechargeable technology many customers say is superior to more expensive models. Call now and get not one, but 2 Nano hearing aids for just $297. Plus, we'll add a portable charging case and ship your order absolutely free. The CIC Recharge has a tiny in-the-ear canal design that is nearly invisible.
And what is it like
missing
being
out on
in
important
New York
conversations
City?
or waste thousands of dollars. Call and get 2 CIC Recharge hearing aids for only $297 and free shipping.
800-325-4991. Again, that's 800-325-4991.
It's one of America's most infamous murder cases. Now, Scott Peterson, the man convicted of killing his wife Lacey and their unborn child 20 years ago, is pushing for a new trial as his legal team argues that he didn't get a fair one. Geraldo Rivero has covered the case extensively from the beginning, and he joins us now to react. Good morning, Geraldo.
Hi, Ainsley.
Hi. Tell the audience I'm doing great.
Look, we match.
We do. We do. We didn't even call each other or text each other. It looks
All
good.
right, coming up on this Friday, UN chief sounding the alarm after fresh
Well, he believes this malignant narcissist, who I have no doubt whatsoever in my heart of hearts, killed his pregnant wife Lacey and their unborn son Connor. This selfish man who wanted to have an affair with Amber Fry and play golf. He is claiming now that one of the 12 jurors who convicted him, and remember initially he was convicted and sentenced to death, but then later when they put the death penalty on hold in California, he was retried. His sentence now is life without parole. He is suggesting that one of the 12 jurors that convicted him, Rachel Nice by name, was a liar, that she lied when she was questioned in voir dire by Mark Garagos as to her background in terms of domestic violence.
Fresh Russian shelling
when she filled out the form, she did not mention the fact that she, the juror Rachel Nice, had an incident with a boyfriend and had a protective order and had some history of domestic violence in her life and was not frank about her experience, her history, and then came to the trial, the defense now alleges, and because of her prejudice, the fact that she had herself been abused, that she was biased against Scott Peterson.
Yeah.
I call bogus on that. I think that she made an honest mistake, and in any case, this guy is 100% guilty.
Well, she did say no when asked by his attorneys if she could base her decision entirely on evidence produced in court and not from outside or pre-existing opinions or attitudes. Peterson no longer has that attorney working this case. And it's strange, Geraldo, because she kept sending a series of letters to him in prison as well, which I found to be very odd. What do you think the judge will decide here, and how long does the judge have?
Well, that's a great question. I think we'll hear imminently. But Rachel Nice is one of these people who has been a real attention seeker. She had flaming red hair at the time of the trial. They had various nicknames for her. She was someone who complained bitterly that other jurors had gotten rich off this case, where she did not. But to me, all of that is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that in San Quentin today sits a man who killed his pregnant wife and then took her out on his fishing boat, dumped her into the bay, where her body months later washed ashore, along with the fetus washed ashore. And here's a guy who is captured heading to the Mexico border. He had $15,000. He had a dozen Viagra. He had camping equipment. He had cell phones. He had dyed his hair blonde. He had a goatee. He had his brother's driver's license. Give me a break. This guy is exactly where, Ainsley, he deserves to be for the rest of his rotten life behind bars in San Quentin.
His family disagrees, and they've been fighting for him, but Lacey's family agrees, obviously, with this jury. Thank you so much, Geraldo, for coming on. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Ainsley.
You're welcome. Coming up, the MLB built it, and the fans came. The iconic Field of Dreams game returned to Iowa for a second season, and Will Kane is on deck to wrap up our coverage there. But first, here's Joe Nichols performing Sunny and 75.
Last night was a night to remember at the Field of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa, where the Cubs beat the Reds 4-2.
So let's check back in with Will Kane. He is there live following last night's big game. Hey, Will. You changed.
Hey, Ainsley. That's right. I did change, but it's a little cold here in August in Iowa, so I put on the long sleeves. But it was warm, and it was fun last night. Most of the action early in the game, the first couple of innings. But yesterday, Steve, Ainsley, Brian, I had a really special, one of the most unique experiences I've had in my career. I'm here standing on the set of Field of Dreams, a movie about fathers and sons. And after the show, I had an opportunity to speak to Cy Young Award winner, World Series champion, Hall of Famer, John Smoltz. And we're talking about the movie. We're talking about fathers and sons. And then John Smoltz turns to me and really says something to me that throughout my career, I don't know that I've ever been this floored. Here's what he said.
I lost my dad this morning, and it's the memories that I'm at so much peace because now he'll be at peace. And he's a guy that loved life, loved people, loved to laugh, loved to learn. And I kind of lived through all the things that he taught me. He's the most competitive guy I've ever been around. We played games all the time, but the game of baseball he grew to love. My dad never missed a game and drove 300 miles to come watch a Little League game, and the efforts he went about to be in the stands cheering as loud as anybody. And then the big leagues come about, and I can't imagine what that was like for him sitting in the stands watching me pitch Game 7 until I had a daughter playing or a son playing and sitting there going, oh my, that's 10 times more unbelievable. And so I have such appreciation for his passion. It plays out through me in everything that I do, his faith, everything that he taught me.
So we did that interview moments after we wrapped from Fox and Friends. It was about 8:30 a.m. here Central Time. And he had lost his dad just hours before. And I was so floored, Ainsley, Brian, Steve, that he sat there with me for 20 minutes. And we had a long conversation. I would encourage you, go check it out. It's on the Will Kane podcast this morning. The 20-minute conversation is up on YouTube. But he told me this, guys. He said, my dad would have wanted me to be here. He was big on showing up. Smoltz was on the call for the game last night for Fox. And I was just so honored that he showed up, not just for me, but for Fox, and shared that with all of us, because it really does represent, yes, this game, baseball, yes, this movie, Field of Dreams, but also what the theme was about us, about fathers and sons, and about America. And it was a very special moment. And I wanted to share it with you three this morning here on Fox and Friends.
Well, it gave us chills when we heard him say that, because you're wondering, how could you go on? But you're absolutely right. It's what his dad would want him to do. And Will, I know that you have been there 2 years now, and you're deeply impacted by the dad and the son playing catch, which I used to do with my sons. I got a feeling you would love to take your kids back there next year, but I don't think they're going to play it next year.
No, they're going to take a year off, Steve, because they're going to try to build this up into a permanent stadium, and hopefully then Major League Baseball will return on an annual basis. I think it's healthy for baseball. I think it's healthy for America. Steve, to that point, I lost my dad in 2001. And so it's true, those relationships mean a lot to me.
Yes.
And now you're right. I have two of my own sons, and I hope that I can bring them back here. I hope Major League Baseball returns. I hope that I return.
It's a beautiful place. It is heaven.
You have to take your sons if you go back in 2 years. I know you've taken them fishing. Those stories were so cute, and they would love that game. Really special. Thank you so much, Will.
And Will, so it's a video and it's audio, right? Will Kane podcast is video, correct?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. It's up on YouTube. You can go to Fox News Podcast. You can listen to it at the Will Kane Podcast.
Awesome.
Great work. Thank you very much. Come on back home.
Right.
We need you tomorrow.
Wait, where's your luggage right now?
I bet you your luggage beats you home.
On the
Fresh
way.
clothes. Who knows, Ainsley? Who knows? I'll be wearing this on Fox and Friends tomorrow morning.
Well, you're flying to New York now. Okay. Well, don't miss your flight.
And we'll be watching tomorrow to see who you have a catch with. All right. Will, great job out there.
Thank you.
You bet. All right. Coming up on this Friday, President Biden says inflation, zero, zilch.
Zero. Our economy had 0% inflation in the month of July.
Okay, so why is he still pushing that massive bill called the Inflation Reduction Act? We're going to talk to Congressman Chip Roy on the irony coming up. But first, here's Joe Nichols performing live on our Fox Square.
She can handle any champagne brunch, a bridal shower with
In my Ozempic Tri-Zone, I lowered my A1C, CV risk, and lost some weight.
Ozempic provides powerful A1C reduction. In studies, the majority of people reached an A1C under 7 and maintained it. Ozempic lowers the risk of major cardiovascular events, such as stroke, heart attack, or death, in adults also with known heart disease. And you may lose weight. Adults lost up to 14 pounds. Ozempic isn't for people with type 1 diabetes. Don't share needles or pens or reuse needles. Don't take Ozempic if you or your family ever had medullary thyroid cancer or have multiple endocrineoplasia syndrome type 2 or if allergic to it. Stop Ozempic and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or an allergic reaction. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Gallbladder problems may occur. Tell your provider about vision problems or changes. Taking Ozempic with a sulfonylurea or insulin may increase low blood sugar risk. Side effects like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may lead to dehydration, which may worsen kidney problems.
Join the millions already taking Ozempic. Ask your healthcare provider about the Ozempic Tri-Zone.
You may pay as little as $25 for a 3-month prescription.
I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. The department does not take such a decision lightly. Where possible, it is standard practice to seek less intrusive means as an alternative to a search.
Unbelievable. Fox News alert Attorney General Garland admitting he personally signed off on the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago as the former president demands the release of all the documents related to it. So he's not standing in the way he's doing the exact opposite. GOP Congressman Chip Roy joins us now. So, Congressman, he's saying, I want to see everything. Let the public see everything. Is that a good move?
Good morning, Brian. I mean, yeah, listen to the Attorney General, the handpicked nominee of the current president who ran against the former president, say that he personally approved all this is obviously a little troubling. But to hear him yesterday say, oh, we're for the even-handed application of the law, give me a break. He says, in essence, trust us. Trust the DOJ that is going after parents for simply showing up at school board meetings. Trust the federal government that has the DHS leaving our borders wide open while they go after the Border Patrol agents who secure our border. Trust them when the CDC yesterday came out and said, oh, don't worry, all that stuff about quarantines and vaccines, oh, just forget all that, even though your kids have been shoved into the corner wearing masks and now they have mental health issues. Trust the federal government that's throwing money at Ukraine and doesn't even know where it's going. Give me a break. To ask us to trust this Department of Justice is an enormous leap of faith for the American people. And they should understand that the American people are sick and tired of empowering bureaucrats. And that's why I think the Republican Party needs to make a strong commitment to the American people that we will defund the tyranny, defund the bureaucrats that are attacking the American people on a daily basis.
The FBI, do they have a choice? If you're told to go in by the Department of Justice and go into any compound, do they have to do it? Do you fault the agents that went in?
I'm never going to fault the line, men and women who are serving our law enforcement community, whether they're, police on our streets in Texas or whether they're FBI agents. Look, Brian, I was a former federal prosecutor. I worked with the FBI. I worked with the ATF. The lion's share of these folks are great patriots. I fault the politicians. I fault the head of the Department of Justice. I fault the head of the Department of Homeland Security, and I fault the President of the United States for politicizing these law enforcement agencies. I do not fault the line people who are doing their job and following orders. That's true in the Department of Defense as well. I fault the people who are messing it up from the top.
All right, so let's talk about what's going to be happening today. You're in the minority in the House by about 4 or 5 votes, and it looks like the House will pass this $700 billion, they say, deficit reduction bill, but it doesn't reduce the deficit. What it does, it's the Manchin-Schumer-Green bill. What could you do to stop this?
Yeah, well, first of all, this bill is terrible. Obviously, hiring 87,000 IRS agents to target Americans. It's just not going to target just the rich. It's actually going to have a disproportionate impact on the poor and middle-income families. And then you've got this Green New Deal garbage, which is chasing unicorn fantasy energy policies and trying to power our country with wind and solar on cloudy, windless days. It's absolutely absurd, and you're empowering China in the process. What Republicans ought to do, I would personally say that we should deny them a physical quorum today. I wouldn't even play their game today, flying in here and having 175 people voting by proxy. But if this thing passes today, which I assume it will, because there's not a single Democrat who gives a whit about the American people and doing the right thing, I would say we should defund all of these entities and we should commit to repealing this bill on day one if the American people give us the power and give us the control in the House. We should fight this with everything we have. No more speeches, no more here's what we're going to do, no more hearings. Come in on day one and say we're going to shut this government down. Shut it down until they stop going after the American people, stop screwing them with high energy bills, stop screwing them with high gas prices, stop sending the FBI after them, stop going after parents when they want to just fix their schools, and the Republicans should show up to the party and actually fight.
Congressman, I hear you. And not only will the Democrats welcome that fight, they think they're going to win it because they think the American people are going to like the bill that much. They want to come back and get the other $2 trillion that Joe Manchin left on the table. So we'll see what happens in November. It's going to be a pretty clear-cut decision. Chip Roy, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. God bless.
Straight ahead, country music star Joe Nichols performs his hit, Good Day for Living, on Fox Square. There he is. But first, let's check in with Dana Perino, who will not sing during her show.
I will not, but I'll be listening. I love Joe Nichols. Thank you so much, Brian. Well, we made it to Friday, but we have a big show ahead before you get to your weekend. Will you see the search warrant on Mar-a-Lago today? President Trump says he's fine with that. Andy McCarthy, Shannon Bream, and Kim Strassel on the latest on the raid in Florida. There's a vote in Congress today that will raise taxes on just about all of us and increase your chances of getting audited by 87,000 new IRS agents. But how many members of Congress are going to hide behind COVID rules to cast their vote by proxy? It's ridiculous. Republican Jason Smith and our Friday Money team will be here. And the CDC relaxes some COVID rules.
And will
this should help everyone get back
to
to normal. But will the new rules allow Djokovic to play in the U.S. Open? We'll talk to Clay Travis of Outkick.com. We'll see you at 9.
This is John.
Nichols performing live.
Be ready for real. Win reality.
Them Diamondbacks are mighty poisonous. We should get you to a doctor.
Real cattle herd don't need no doctor. Let's drive this herd.
It's okay to ask for help. Find a licensed therapist at BetterHelp.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms.
If you or a loved one were stationed at Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1987 and were later diagnosed with cancer, Parkinson's disease, or other serious health effects, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. After decades of waiting, new legislation has just been passed that finally offers justice to the countless Marines and their family members who experienced devastating health effects after being exposed to toxic water at Camp Lejeune. So if you or a loved one were stationed at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1987 and were later diagnosed with cancer, Parkinson's disease, or other serious health effects, toxic water may be to blame. Call right now to find out if you qualify. There are time deadlines to file a claim, so don't wait. Call right now.
Call 1-800-606-9348. 1-800-606-9348.
And thanks again to the Masterbuilt guys, John and John, for bringing us the barbecue brunch. Delicious. In the meantime, it's time for the All-American Summer Concert Series presented by our friends at P&G and Lowe's.
And here to perform Good Day for Living, Mr. Joe Nichols.
Thank y'all so much.
Little place is a little bit understated. Yeah, the OJ's always concentrated. AC's broke, so we gotta sleep naked. It's a good day for living. Swear all my jeans got holes in the pocket. Yeah, the money falls out as soon as I start walking. Good thing the sunshine don't cost nothing. It's a good day for living. Living it up, living it right, living each day one day at a time. Ain't making no worry no bigger than it is when it isn't. Yeah, I've been thinking I wanna wake up and do it for the love. Glass half full and I fill the rest up. Gonna take a sweet sip of whatever life's fixing. It's a good day for living. I love you, ain't ever great day for living. She got a cool tattoo of Rosie the Riveter. If there's a good time, good chance she's in it first. Any day that I get to kissing her's a good day for living. Sneak into a motel pool at 4 a.m. and every time she smiles I say amen. One hell of a good staycation. It's a good day for living. Living it up, living it right, living each day one day at a time. Ain't making no worry no bigger than it is when it isn't. Yeah, I've been thinking I wanna wake up and do it for the love. Glass half full and I fill the rest up. Gonna take a sweet sip of whatever life's fixing. It's a good day for living. Oh yeah. It's a wild ride, but we all got a ticket check. Goes by quick, if you blank, you'll miss it. Tomorrow's always short on specifics, but it's a good day for living. Living it up, living it right, living each day one day at a time. Ain't making no worry no bigger than it is when it isn't. Yeah, I'm thinking I wanna wake up and do it for the love. Glass half full and I fill the rest up. Gonna take a sweet sip of whatever life's fixing. It's a good day for living. A good day. Good day for living. Oh, it's a good day for living. All about gratitude. Thank y'all so much. That's our new single.
The All-American Summer Concert
It's time to make a stand. Start a new day with Trelegy.
And I'm feeling good.
No once-daily COPD medicine has the power to treat COPD in as many ways as Trelegy. With 3 medicines in 1 inhaler, Trelegy helps people breathe easier and improves lung function. It also helps prevent future flare-ups. Trelegy won't replace a rescue inhaler for sudden breathing problems. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before taking it. Do not take Trelegy